And I think we are officially live on the internet on a Wednesday night. Happy Wednesday, everybody who's here with us, and welcome to this episode of Character Choices. This is our second episode, and we are super excited to be here. Right, guys? Gals, I just conditioned over the years to say guys, and I spend so much time with gals these days, so... But I am fairly certain that we are up and running. I'm going to head and just double check here to make sure, because last time I thought we were up and running, we were in fact not up and running. So hold on 1 second. I got to figure out how to get where we're going. So yeah, I think that we are good. I think we're up and running. For those of you that are here with us, if anybody's here with us and you are in chat, if you could let us know that you can hear us, that would be wonderful. That's the one other concern that we have going on. Otherwise, we are ready to rock and roll. Except when I can't see chat. See, these are the little kind of technical things that we're going to get so good at as we go on with things. So, you guys seeing it? Those of you that have it up on your end. And so on and so forth. Don't laugh at me. Why are you laughing at me? It's not funny. Well, I'm going to assume that we are good and just move on. There we go. Thank you, Jay Schieber. We're good. We're up. Awesome. I just had to get chat up and running so I can see it. Sweet. Okay, well, welcome. We are excited to be here. We had a bit of a break this last week, but we are ready to go back and continue our quest for the greatest story ever rolled, which sounds super ambitious when you think about it, right? But we are determined. We're determined to find our way there. We are excited to share this with you and look forward to it. Do we have any announcements, anything that we need to mention before we get going that you guys can think of? Other than the fact that here in the very near future, we will be starting a new a bit of programming for those that are interested in kind of keeping up with us, called Out of Character, where we will kind of get together out of character between sessions to talk about what happened in the last session. This is kind of a self-centered thing because it's going to help us process all of this chaos. But also give us a chance to kind of talk about some of the choices that our characters have made and what we think about that. And for those of you that are interested in joining us for that, we'd love it. At a certain time in the future, we'll have something set up where you can maybe send in your questions for these players and their characters, so that we can try and answer those questions as well in those out of character sessions. So we look forward to getting that going. We'll be back to you guys soon on the interwebs somewhere to let you know when and how and where that's going to be, but it should be coming down the line fairly quickly. And we do look forward to continuing to add programming beyond that, other ideas that we have in the works as we get the hang of this, just getting our head and our hands wrapped around this process. So, but yeah, other than that, I don't think that there's much else to discuss. So,
like, comment, and share if you like this.
Oh, I'm so
share
bad.
it with all your friends.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at the internet stuff.
Beth had a birthday last week.
What's that?
That's right.
I did have a birthday last
Oh,
week.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
So you're 29 now, right?
Totally. That's my age.
Someday you won't agree to the older age that people throw at you.
It's better than being the age that I am and thinking all of the people my age are not fine.
Well, happy birthday. Congratulations on being here for another year and all that growth I'm sure that you did and stuff.
Alive!
I'm alive!
You're still here. Absolutely. Sweet. Well, I think then without further ado, unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and roll into this week's episode of Character Choices. And
Pun unintended.
roll into. It really was unintended, by the way, so I can't take credit for that. But we will go ahead and roll in with a bit of a recap of where we left off last time. Last episode on Character Choices, our adventurers found themselves within the Quaylen's Rest, a tavern and inn in the outpost town or village of Baronhold within Andromar. They had come together in a couple of smaller groups and just kind of happenstance, coincidentally, it had nothing to do with me or anyone else, put them in the same inn together. Oh, go figure. And they, we got to know them just a little bit, and they bumped into each other inside of the inn. And what I had a whole lot of, it was a whole lot of fun to watch you guys do your things. So got to know each other, and in the middle of all of this, a young boy named Cole entered in under the arm of Handarl Quaylen, the mayor / Baron of Baronhold, in tears, stating that his father had gone missing and that he was looking for some help to try and track his father down. Help from adventurers just like yourselves who happened to be right there. Now, this is somebody that Pim had bumped into earlier that morning while going through his forms, his monk forms, and you all eager to be of assistance, and recently having been told that you are part of each other's destiny. I think the term was part of the Destiny Squad. I think that's the phrase that you used, Maddie. And you, with a little bit of prompting from Handarl Quaylen, got nudged in the direction of the area just outside of the stockade, the large timber stockade that surrounds Baronhold. You were led out by the guards and led by Cole to the kind of normal, what he said would be the normal hunting grounds for his father. And when you arrived, you indeed saw him down on the ground holding the hand of some figure that was hidden behind a log. And as you approached, saw yet more figures stand and move forward. Until you were surrounded by 4 shady-looking characters. And it turns out that Cole was not who he said he was. His intentions were not what they said they were. He kind of was a little snotty about it, too. And you all entered battle for the first time, at least in the main kind of campaign here, as a group. First time as a group. And by the way, it wasn't like a super high, intense battle, but you guys, you rocked their socks off. You did a real good job. And you engaged in battle. You took down these 4 individuals. And in the aftermath, I believe it was an Azrael that wrestled Cole into some sort of a half-Nelson elf lock thing and kept him from running away. And it was in this state that we left you. In the aftermath of battle, having engaged with magic and with blade and with arrow, and taken some knocks, some of you some blows, being even harmed in battle for the first time, some of you dealing out hefty amounts of damage in a method that you were used to from times past, but having come together in this way. And you stand now in the aftermath of this battle. You're in the same situation as you found yourself before, the same area between the river loft, which is off on one side, wide and slow moving, and the stockade on the other side, 20 to 30 feet high, tall, roughly finished timbers with kind of pointed tops, surrounded by a few stumps that remain of where the woods have been cleared out of this area, and the wilder woods that have not yet been cleared off to one side. You find yourself in this place. I'm sure sweating in the aftermath of battle. You can feel the sweat trickling down. You can smell the smell of not magic, but like what magic has done. You can see a bit of a wisp of smoke trailing up from the stockade where a stray bit of magic from Bitsy slammed into this place, and singe marks on the bodies that are scattered around you from the way that your magics bit into and burned clothing and whatnot. And so you have that kind of acrid, kind of burnt after smell kind of wafting through the air around you, the sound of the water of the river loft off to one side. standing in the aftermath with a distraught Cole in an elf-induced headlock. And this is where we left off. And this is exactly where we are going to pick up. So, adventurers, what would you like to do?
I'm gonna. Sorry. Girlie got healed, right?
I healed, I think, 2 people.
I think we all did because I was hurt too.
So I got most everyone. I used up some spell slots, that's for sure.
Just
I
making
spell
sure she's
all
not
my
like
spell
still
slots
shot
full
on the
right
ground, dying.
No, I'm good.
Midlife crisis.
Well, yeah. And I stand up and I like wipe away my tears, all embarrassed and like suave.
Suave.
Suavely, is that word? Suavely wipe
Suave.
away my
Yes.
tears.
Suavely.
No, we all
Wipe my
suavely wipe our tears away on a regular basis, so we know what you mean.
Thank you.
Wicket's gonna stand up and look around and just at the kind of, smoldering bodies or whatever, and just say, "So that was a little unexpected, right? Should we help them or do we leave them, or are they dead? Please, are they dead? Just tell me if they're dead." I'm gonna look Wicket up and down and just shrug and say, "Check for yourself."
I grab Wicket's arm to make sure she doesn't go check.
I can't face the truth.
Do you go check?
What did we do as a kid?
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Bitsy's gonna run up to this kid, this child, this disappointment, and she's going to start yelling at him. She's gonna start telling him how disappointed I am. And she's gonna point up at his face. "That was an awful thing to do, you little piece of poop! Oh my gosh! You have parents? I don't know about parents, but man, if you were my kid, I would be disappointed. You're not even my kid, and I'm disappointed. I can't even imagine if you were my kid. You child? That was a bad thing to do. I mean, if you died right now, what would you want your life to have come to? Gold? Yeah? That's what I thought." She's just gonna kind of take it.
Asriel is just gonna
he's like-
be
he's
nodding
like got his
and
hands
holding
kind
him
of-
in place.
He looks down at you. He says, "Actually, it was mostly silver," is what he says to you.
I'm gonna growl and kind of shake him a little bit and see not to.
Don't hurt me. Whatever you do, don't hurt me.
You should apologize.
Yeah.
Apologize. To you?
To everyone.
Sure. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I don't know
You're
what I
gonna
was
make
thinking.
it sound more sincere.
Oh, that wasn't sincere?
I didn't think he was telling the truth. I don't think he was that sorry.
That wasn't
We
sincere.
roll like a should we like test that? I believe him.
He looks over at you. Well, good. Because I'm telling the truth.
Tell the truth.
And he starts crying.
I'm gonna go.
Oh my gosh, you made the kid cry.
I'm gonna go check one of the bodies, like what kind of stuff they have on them. At least the nearest body.
Okay, you're gonna go look at the bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure Wicket isn't following me.
Wicket's gonna like look at you, like go to follow, and then just see your like look and be like, and weirdly just stand there like, what do I do?
Okay, so you head to the nearest body to you. Just one of them, right? So you're just gonna start with one of them. So you move closer to the body. It's sprawled out on the ground before you, a bit awkwardly, where it fell. You do see a bit of blood and some other things, and no big wounds are open for you to kind of see. But you can see that the eyes are lifeless, and that this particular individual has succumbed and moved on. You can see that he's dressed practically, and you can see the leather armor that they wear underneath, kind of rough spun, kind of homespun outer clothing. You can see that this one has kind of a flat, broad nose, and he has kind of deep green eyes that are staring off into the distance. And that as you look around, you can see that most of them have the same sort of hairstyle. They have deeply kind of tanned, weathered skin. Long hair, it's kind of long off to one side, but it's cut short on one side. It's not shorn, not completely buzz cut or anything, but it's where it's long on the other side, it's short on the one side, kind of closely cut, and kind of laying there on the ground. Do you want to investigate? You want to actually get close and kind of do an investigation on this?
Yeah.
So go ahead and roll an investigation roll for me.
Okay.
Is Akerly going to be the only one doing this? Is anyone else going to jump in and help with the investigation on these bodies?
I'll check the ones that I'm over by as well. I think I'm by like 2 of them.
Sounds good.
16.
16?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Go ahead and roll an investigation check for me too, Rach, on the others.
It's Pim.
Pim?
Kidding.
17.
Awesome. Good job, guys. So between the two of you, you guys examine the bodies, kind of root around, doing the kind of grim work in the aftermath of the battle. And you can see that 3 of these men, again, have the same sort of kind of long hair with one side of it cut. One of them is a bit thinner than the others, and this one has like a small braid hanging down beside his face, and his eyes are just a bit of a lighter shade of green. Excuse me. But there's enough of a similarity that you get the sense that they're of the same kind of ethnic background. They're from the same kind of people. And all 3 of them look very similar. 2 of them have flat kind of broad noses and the deeper green eyes, but one of them has a nose that jukes really hard to one side. You can tell that he's broken it badly at some point in the past. So get the sense that these are definitely kind of fighters, rough and tumble type fighters, not statesmen by any means. The 4th of the group was the one that acted more like a leader of the bunch, and has almost stately features, kind of a longer, more aquiline nose, and a bit of a chiseled jaw, and has several scars on his face that mark him as a fighter. This one's hair is closer cropped, and you can see that he's got some subtle markings in kind of a semicircle beneath his eyes, a deep, earthy red color. Not too intense, it's very kind of pale, but you can see the differentiation between his skin and these marks, just simple kind of hash marks underneath his eyes in a semicircle. As you examine the bodies, you find, right off the back, between the 4 of them, you find 15 gold pieces on their body. You can decide between the 2 of you who's going to mark that. You guys should keep track of this sort of thing as we move forward here. Make notes, and then we can get it added to your character sheet.
Do you want to Rach or me?
Yeah, I'm writing it down right now.
Okay.
And you see the weapons that they carry on them. If you remember from last time, each of them had a mace, and the maces all looked and felt very similar. As you get closer, you do see that each of them does have this mace. 2 of them are carrying large crossbows, and they each have like a well-used dagger on them. The maces are eerily similar, and you notice with the 16 investigation that the maces are fresh. They're new. The metal on them is relatively bright. They are not tarnished really by age or by weather, and don't look to have seen very much in the way of action before now, other than what blood is on them now from the fight that just took place. They look kind of curiously fresh, and they all are the same. They have a long handle on them, and then on the head of them, the head is in the shape of a skull. but the skull is kind of oddly ovoid, like almost egg-shaped. It's narrower at the crown and wider around the jaw, giving it this kind of eerie, kind of creepy grin, this kind of crazy grin, because the mouth is bigger. But you can see the telltale eye sockets, nose sockets. You can see the grin, that grin of the dead on it. And but the shape of it is strange and kind of an egg-like shape. And with an investigation of 16, you also find tucked into very kind of tightly sewn pockets on the inside of the leader's vest, some small pockets, each one containing a platinum piece. You find 5 platinum pieces tucked into small, kind of coin-sized openings in the leather armor of that statelier-looking man, and tucked away for a rainy day. I just want to make sure I remember. So just so you guys remember, it's 10 silver to a gold, and it is 10 gold pieces to a platinum. So those 5 platinum are equivalent to 50 gold pieces. So you do find those, and then also, as you're looking at the mace, you notice that just below the head on each of the maces, there's a very small symbol that's been carved or stamped into the shaft of the mace, just where it meets the head. And it's a figure that looks, as you kind of get near it, and you have to get pretty close to it to be able to really see any detail. It's a figure that looks like it could be maybe a tree or maybe even a feather of some kind. A kind of central shaft or trunk with a kind of a spear-like shape that goes down around it that could be maybe a tall, like Italian cypress style tree, or maybe a feather. And it's got a flame kind of motif around its edges, as if it were at the center of the fire, though it seems untouched by any of the flame. And running vertically up along the central trunk or shaft of that feather are 8 crude marks, little tiny asterisks or starbursts that are kind of etched into that central piece. It's crudely done, just kind of very lightly kind of stamped or etched into this. But you do notice that, and all 4 of the maces that you find share that same symbol placed upon them. So beyond that, as you investigate, you do find kind of a small half-whittled figurine of a bird on the corpse that had the little braid alongside of his head. It's a roughed out figure of a bird. You can see detail just beginning to show in a few places where he was starting to kind of hone in on it. But it's just kind of in the rough kind of outline of a bird thus far. In any case, that's what you find. Besides the pouch that they threw at Cole, who grabbed that pouch from them earlier. I don't know if you snagged that off of him or not. If you do, it's got 10 silver pieces in it. Do you guys take that from him? I guess I should ask you that first.
Should I shake down this kid that I'm grappling?
Up to you. I mean, morally, he got the money fair and square. He did what he was told.
Technically, it belongs to him.
Technically, it belongs to him.
He looks down and says, "That's right. I worked hard for this money."
I'm gonna laugh.
You're gonna take this money from me?
I bet I worked even harder to take the money from you.
He kind of glares at you. He's got this bit of an attitude. You can see kind of in his eyes. He's comes across to those of you that can tell a bit unapologetic. He's scared. You can see that he's scared or a bit fearful of what might happen to him, that he got caught, but seems kind of unapologetic.
I'm gonna
kind of looks at you.
I'm gonna meet his eyes, and it's gonna spark something, and I'm gonna grin and just say, "Don't run," and let him go.
Interesting. Go ahead first and roll a persuasion check. Unless you were attempting to be more intimidating than persuading.
Let me think about what my character would do in this situation. So I'm Granny and I'm gonna persuade.
Okay.
Persuasion, where art thou? I have a 22, 23. Hold on. I forgot.
You've got a high number.
I got a high number. It's somewhere in the 20s.
Sounds good. No, that'll do. He feels you let him go, kind of drops to his feet and stumbles a little forward and kind of turns back around. Did you take the pouch of silver from him?
No, I didn't.
Still on him?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, he looks at you, and he's a bit wide-eyed, kind of a bit surprised, you can see in his eyes. He looks at you and says, "You're just letting me go?"
I'm going to grin even wider and say, as long as you don't run.
He kind of turns and looks over his shoulder at the path that you all came from. You can see the log that you jumped over the other day to get into this kind of area, and then back at you. Bet you couldn't stop me if I did.
Considering that you were way ahead of me before and I somehow still stopped you, I bet I still could.
He kind of narrows his eyes. "Listen, no offense," he says. "You're not from around here, right?"
I'm going to laugh and gesture to all of myself and then just say, clearly.
"That's what I thought. You're from somewhere else, not here, not from Andromar." "Well, we here in Andromar, we do what we got to survive. It's how it is. It's how it's always been. Life's rough here, always has been, and you got to look out for yourself. So..."
I'm going to crouch, put my hand on his shoulder and meet his gaze and say, and that right there is exactly why I'm not taking your money.
"Really?"
Really?
Yeah, he steps back. He seems confused at the moment. Huh. Well, what are you gonna do? You gonna rat me out? You gonna tell on me?
That'll be up to the rest of them. I'd like you to answer some of my questions.
He kind of steps back. He folds his arms a little bit. He's got the pouch in one hand, and he kind of tucks it under his arm like this as he kind of folds his arms and looks at you.
I'm going to sit on the ground at this point and kind of lazily stretch out next to him. And then pat the ground
to her and
next
just
to
do
me.
the same thing.
Bitsy is mirroring.
I'm going to pat the ground next to me and look at him.
He looks at you. He looks back over his shoulder at the kind of path out of here and then back down at you. Rolls his eyes and he kind of drops down into kind of cross-legged position on the ground. "What questions?"
First of all, who are those guys?
"I don't know. Not from around here."
How'd you get involved with them?
They got involved with me. They ran into me while I was out. I was out hunting with my dad the other day, like I told you. And because I really do have a dad, and he really does hunt. And I was bringing back some of the catch. We checked the snares, and I was coming back with some of the conies that we picked up, the rabbits, and I was heading back just me alone while he finished checking the rest of the traps, and I got stopped by one of these guys. He looks past you at the kind of leader of the group. That one over there. He just told me that he had a question, and I don't mind answering questions. And he kind of looks at you when he says that. And so, that's how it started. I just, answered his question. He kind of clams up.
Where's your dad now?
You see him kind of put like a firm face on, kind of a stern face. He's at home right now, probably. So he's he's not feeling too good these days. So getting a little harder for him to do what it is that he came here to do, the thing that's keeping us afloat. So we all got to help where we can. And he kind of wipes his nose a bit.
His dad is
Is he sick, injured, or is this some form of self-sabotage?
You gonna believe me even if I tell you? He kind of looks
That
down and
depends
then
on
looks,
how well the truth is.
he looks up.
How
and
well
he's
you tell the truth.
he's like, I don't think I would believe me, as he says. And I get it. He's old. Come from a big family, and there's a lot of us. I'm the youngest, and he was on hard times and looked at this as an opportunity, and I came up here to help him. And he's just getting old. When your body gets old, it does funny things, he says. Stops working the way that it used to, and so he's just not as spry as he used to be.
I'm gonna look at Bitsy for a second and turn back to Cole. My friend happens to be a healer.
I'm a healer.
She looks at
I know.
he looks at you. Healer? What do you mean? Like with herbs and stuff?
With magic.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you not see my other friend get shot with an arrow and now she's standing?
I was kind of running away at the time, so I think I might have missed it. She looks fine now.
It's because I healed her.
With magic?
With magic.
Wow. That's
Right?
kind of rare, for sure.
Yeah.
Can you heal old age?
No, but we can at least ease it.
Are you telling the truth though? Like, I'm a trusting person.
Do you want to do an insight check? You guys got to remember, you can do insight checks at any point in time.
This kid.
And Azrael, you can as well if you want. And Azrael, since you're the one, you two are the ones that sat down to interrogate.
I'm not going to at the moment.
Okay. So Bitsy?
Seven.
7?
You just buy what he's saying.
Yeah. As far as you can tell, he's on the straight and narrow, man. He's being super honest. Super honest with you. He kind of looks back. He looks down. Yeah, I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt for you to maybe take a look at him.
I mean,
While this is...
I'm a healer. I don't hurt people.
He looks at you and kind of looks back at you and Azrael, and you see him kind of a bit of the kind of stubbornness go out of his face a little bit, and he turns to you, Pim, and looks at you. They were looking for you.
Why?
They heard that you had something that they wanted. The legend of the boat. I don't know if you know, but people have heard about that boat, and it's pretty awesome.
Wicket's gonna like whip her head to you and be like, "This the special boat, the cool one." Is that what he's talking about?
Yep, I think that's the one. Probably shouldn't have taken it out of my bag at breakfast, but
I'm sorry, but it was really cool. I mean, like, I'm sorry.
They asked me about you first, not about the boat. First question they asked was if I'd seen an older halfling around the post. They described you. They had your description. Got it pretty good, enough for me to know that it was you and that I'd seen you around. And I told him, yeah, I'd seen that guy around. And he'd been around in town. He hadn't. I told him that you weren't here lately. This was a couple of days ago, about 5 days ago, maybe about a week ago. And told them that you weren't here, and they gave me a silver piece, a whole silver piece. I don't know where you guys are from, but a whole silver piece, that's a lot of money. Goes a long way out here. And told me if I contacted them when you got back, that there'd be more. And so that's what I did. Just trying to help my dad out. So So anyway, they mentioned when I talked to him the second time that I heard him talking as I was heading out, and they mentioned that that boat that you have, and seemed real interested in it, real keen about it. They didn't say why at all, but it seemed to be what it was that they were after. I mean, it could just be that they...
I mean, it's a pretty interesting boat.
Maybe that's it. They don't seem like sailors to me, but they don't seem like fishermen, but anyway, liked your boat.
We appreciate your honesty, Cole. Is there anything else we should know?
How about this? He says. To sweeten the pot. Because I think the question that should be being asked right now is what are you gonna do about me? And yeah, I know what I did was kind of rotten. I know it was kind of rotten what I did to you, but you know, just trying to make a buck. But you know, they were after your magic item. Maybe you could use one of theirs. He stands up and he walks over towards the larger of the two stumps that you guys kind of were hiding behind and fighting around before. And you see him reach into kind of a knot, kind of where a branch used to be, but it had rotted out, and there's kind of a hole that's in there, a shallow hole, and he kind of reaches in, and you see him pull his hand out, clutching a small stone, looks like, and walks over to you, and he opens his hand up to you, and shows you a small stone. So it's a small stone that has a symbol carved on it, and the symbol is very similar to the one that you saw stamped into the head of the mace that you had. And he kind of holds it out to you, then reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a second one, and they are pretty much identical to each other. He says, "This is how I talk to them. This is how they talk back to me. You can use these stones to talk to each other from like a long distance." And so they gave me one, and they told me to tell them when you got back around, and so that's what I did. And then I came back over here, anyway, they're pretty cool item, and he kind of hands them to you. They're definitely worth at least 10 silver pieces, and maybe more, and maybe the scratches that you got along the way. And he kind of looks at you with his eyes open.
Wicket's eyes kind of follow the rocks and and just say, "So what's the brand?"
What's that?
What's the brand?
What do you mean? What brand?
The cool little, tree feather looking, like, is that a brand? What is it? Who is it? I should say.
I don't know. I have no idea. I just saw it on the stones, and I don't know what it is. Just saw it there.
It's on their
Anybody know what it is?
I informed the group.
What's that?
I informed the group that it's on the maces too.
He kind of looks surprised.
Are there any other like guys hanging around? It's like, is the group bigger than this?
Sorry. Say that again.
Are there like any other people, or is it just these couple dudes that are, incapacitated?
I don't know. I actually only saw 3 of them. It looks like they had another buddy hanging around. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any more of them or not.
You know what? Caspian! Where's Caspian? Caspian!
And he jumps up onto your shoulder.
I still can't get over the fact that you're willing to do a weasel sound but not a horse sound.
He's a marten. Get it right.
A marten.
Don't offend Caspian.
I've watched a lot of National Geographic and worked very hard on my marten impression now.
Caspian, I have a favor to ask you. These guys, not so great, kind of wanted to hurt us. I think they might want to kill us. I'm not so sure. Hurt for sure. Could you just, run a couple laps and see if there's anyone, like lurking, like sketchy, like characters.
And he like puts his paw up and then puts it down again, and he like dives off your shoulder, and he runs off into the kind of area roundabout.
Wicket's gonna look at Bitsy and just say, "Why do we want to find the bad guys?"
We don't want the bad guys to find us.
But if we run away, they won't find us.
But what if they find us before we run away?
Well, why do they want us? Why would they hurt us? We've done nothing wrong.
Pim's got cool stuff.
Hey,
Pim's got cool stuff.
While they're arguing, Acrely, I'm going to look around. Is it like heavily dense wood area? Like, is the sun coming in at all, or is it shaded a lot?
It's relatively shady. It's fairly early in the morning, kind of just heading towards mid-morning now. Maybe 9 or 10 o'clock. You guys got up pretty early this morning before coming over here. So some sun is now starting to kind of peek down in, and it's coming from below you. So in the direction where the woods begin again, kind of a thick forest continues on where they haven't cut down trees and processed things out yet. The sun's coming up from above that side of things and kind of coming down in a shaft into the area where you are. So you feel
So
it.
there are like patches of sunlight where the sun can get in.
Yeah, it's actually pretty open, the space that you're in. Most of the trees in this area were cut down completely, so you have a kind of a big, maybe 50, 60 feet by 100 feet space where there's not really any trees at all. So right about this time of day, the sun's coming in and pretty much lighting up most of the space that you're in right now.
I'm going to attempt to, I'm going to close the eyes of the bodies, and I'm going to, try to drag them to the edge of the tree line where the sun, when it's rising, will be able to hit them when it comes back up again in the morning.
Okay. So you begin to move these bodies around.
On a strength check?
Yeah, go ahead and roll a strength check just to see how long it takes you to do this.
Okay. Come on. 17?
Wow. Okay. Good job.
Girl, you're ripped.
Well, I have a +1, but I rolled a 16,
Yeah.
so.
So it's going to take you a little while, just kind of realistically. With a 17, you could do it yourself if you wished. It would just take a minute for you to do it.
Wicket notice that she's starting to do that, and just mid-argument, just be like, "Oh," and walk over.
Yeah.
And just kind of try and push the feet of the guy with
She's
her.
She's like pushing the feet as you're pulling from under the arms, and you guys slowly work it across.
Would that
and
be
kind
a perception check
up and
since
over
you're
some
mid-argument?
No, we'll say it's easy enough that you notice her kind of break away. You hear the sound of a body being dragged across
Wicked's very easily distracted.
Right. And you guys do. You manage to move the bodies over into kind of a line together. Is that what you kind of wanted to do? Line them up kind of next to each other on one side of this open space?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna thank Cole for the stones and ask him how far his family is from here.
He looks at you and says, we're inside the town, just part way into the city. It'd take about 10 minutes to walk back to the gate, and then from there just a couple few minutes to get to our place. So what are you gonna do?
Hurt you.
Well, I'd like to help you if I can.
Even
I'm
after
gonna
what I
turn.
did, you want to help me?
We're better
People make
people than you.
I'm gonna grin and say, people make mistakes. People try and kill me all the time. And turn to the rest of the group.
I'm gonna walk up to him and just look at him for a minute and not even say anything, and then I'm just gonna turn around and say, "Let's go."
Oh.
So you see him, you guys that are still looking at him, see him kind of drop his head down just a little bit as he looks back over at Pim. He does call out to you as you walk away, Pim. Hey, for whatever it's worth, I'm sorry.
Stop for a second. And then I'm gonna turn back around and say, "Are we going to your father? Or are we not going to your father?"
That's fine. We can go to my father. And he kind of takes another step towards you and kind of shakes his head. He looks uncomfortable.
I'm gonna grab his hand and follow him step beside him. Say, lead the way.
And he looks like he's about to say something else, opens his mouth, and he kind of looks back at you and kind of looks down and kind of closes his mouth and just kind of nods. Fine. Are you going to let anybody know about these bodies out here, or?
Oh, we should probably tell Quaylin or something. I mean, I feel like it would be kind of disrespectful. But, like, part of me is like, well, they tried to kill us. But part of me is like, no, that's wrong. And that's, like, a whole debate of morality and stuff. But, you know, I'm kind of leaning towards that we should tell someone so they don't, like, get eaten by birds or, you know. That's just a personal opinion, you know. It could be up for debate.
Can we send Caspian with a message?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Caspian. I mean,
bad.
I don't think Quaylin would really understand, you know.
I mean, we'd write out a message and have Caspian deliver it.
Writing.
Yeah.
All right.
And he hasn't come back quite yet. He's still out. He's still out running security on the perimeter.
We just have to wait a minute. He's very thorough, which is very good, but like, it's very time consuming sometimes. But you know, like, don't complain because he does really good work. It just takes a minute to, you know, get done.
Wicked at this point is gonna just tug on Akerly's sleeve and say, and try and like fold her arms and to seem all like cool and stuff, and be like, so, what do you think? Are we you know, with them and stuff? or what are we gonna ditch them or what are we doing, Akerly? I don't know.
I look down at her and sort of just like out of my head real quick, and I sort of realize she's talking to me, and I look at the group and I say, yeah, we can stick with them for now, at least till we're out of the woods.
Yeah.
There's safety in numbers.
Totally. Safety in numbers. That's the clear decision that should have been made. I knew that.
Hey, you did really well in the fight.
Ah, really? I was kind of shaking and trembling, but I was fine.
Hey, we lived.
I was really scared. I was terrified, actually. I thought I was gonna die, but it's fine.
You did good.
You got shot, freaking Akerly.
I
Hurt?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. Bitsy healed me. I'm good as new. So
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be dead if you know you're trying to be a great person and a great hero, and that would kind of suck if you know died before you could do that. So I'm glad you're not dead.
yeah, me too. I would hate to die. So let's go follow them. Let's go.
Okay.
You guys head back.
We gotta wait for Caspian.
Oh yeah, we have to.
It takes another probably almost 10 minutes before you kind of see the little form of the marten slinking back across and hopping up over logs and things in your direction. And jumps back up into your hand and then kind of runs up onto your arm and kind of stands at attention and looks at you. And he says to you, good luck with
So
that.
is that good or bad? Okay, I think we're okay. I think we're good. The vibe here is that we're good.
And he kind of runs back up to your shoulder, burrows in under your hair. And you guys continue?
Are we sending a message?
Yeah. My handwriting sucks though, so someone else wants to do it. That'd be good.
I can write it.
Sweet.
You're gonna send him ahead, is what you're thinking?
Yeah, to Quaylen.
Pam's gonna pull something out and write whatever
Okay.
note we're
While you're
writing.
writing the message, I'm gonna ruffle Cole's hair and be like, "You seem like a decent kid. You should stay out of trouble."
He kind of sniffs, looks back at Pim, looks over at you. You know, we are what we have to be.
I understand that, but by living that way, you become nothing at all. Trust me. It's better to have a code that you live by than stand for nothing.
Well, right now I stand for survival. In fact, all of us have for a very long time. It's been our reality. I don't know where you guys came from, but things have been rough here in Angemar for a very long time. And the people that survive are the ones that find ways to survive, and this was an opportunity. I didn't. Anyway. So you guys, you write a note while they're talking like this. Generally speaking, what kind of information you're putting in there, so I know what he's going to get on the other end potentially.
I'm telling him that there are bodies out in the forest.
Was a trap.
It was a trap.
Dead people.
Are you
There
going
are
to
dead bodies.
kind of recount fully what happened? Are you going to hold back any information at all? Or?
Yeah, are we getting Cole in trouble?
I
Because
think we're just gonna write that we ran into some people in the forest. We had a bit of a
ambush in the
scuffle.
forest.
Yeah.
Ambush, yeah.
And there are now bodies out there that need to be taken care of.
Just ambushed in the forest. Won the fight. Please pick up bodies.
And so you're going to send the Martin on ahead of you, is what you're thinking. Okay.
Oh, and maybe make a note that they should try to identify who they are, so we can sort of know where they came
Please
from.
pick up and identify bodies.
We should also ask him how his day is, because I feel like it's kind of rude if you just, hey, we killed people. Can you solve our
I'm imagining
problem?
Tim
And then,
over
like,
writing this with all
Tim's
this time
listening to all of this going, oh my gosh. At the end
Who
of
are
it, it
you?
goes, "Fifty would
Question
like me
mark.
to ask if you were having
Yes, how was your day?
P.S. PPS. PPPPS.
Right.
Yes, could you ask about the cool brand that was on the thing? I'm just curious, like, is there a shop in town that does that? Like, maybe there's a weaponry or something. I don't know. I was just curious.
And Nashriel is going to be listening to everyone chiming in and then, like, recapping what you guys said in a way to put it in the letter and telling it to Pim so that he can write it down.
Okay.
I
Probably
smile.
the little-
I smile
the
and
little-
watch Pin as he finishes this letter, and then lean in. Ask him what his favorite color is.
Martin's name is Caspian. Make sure he doesn't, like, just call it it. You know?
You should probably draw the little brand so that they actually know what it looks like.
Are you a good artist?
I'm just gonna turn around and look at all of them and just fold it. And then ask me.
Sounds good. And yeah, so maybe with a bit of string, I'm sure that you have on you, tie it around. How do you attach it to the Martin?
Do I have string on me?
I'm sure you could pull some string off your clothes or pull a little bit off
I
a
was
piece of
going to
rope.
say.
You do have rope
kinda
on
like-
you.
Oh.
Leave it through and is this comfortable? Is this too tight? No, it's good. Okay, the guy we met earlier, tall, authoritative looking. I think you were there. The guy when Cole walked in crying like a baby. That guy. That guy that Cole was with. Okay. You're so great. You're gonna do good. Okay. I believe in you. I trust you with all my heart.
And he jumps off your arm onto the ground. You see him kind of slink off into the distance, so heading off in front of you. You guys start walking in his wake. Find the path that you took on your way out here, and Cole just kind of walks with you at this point in time. He seems a little less. He's got a little of the fluff taken out of him from before. His head's hanging down just a little bit. You see him kind of fist clenching on the small sack of coins, which at one point along the way he jams into a pocket and kind of wipes his face again and kind of keeps going with you guys. Yeah, so you head in that direction. It takes you 8 or 9 minutes, I think, to get back to the this spot where the river gate is here in Baronhold. You see the river loft down with the jetty that goes out, and the guard standing watch down below. And he raises a hand and kind of waves at you. You didn't meet this one, but he kind of sees you coming out. And come up to the gate, which is closed. Here, you do hear a voice kind of come from above you. As you look up, you can see that there are two towers, very small kind of guard towers flanking the gates on either side of the gate here, with small kind of platforms on top. And you see a face peering out from over the top of one of them, an elven-looking face. It looks down. And says to you, "Who goes there?"
I'm going to look up to them and say, "It's Pim of Lee Gallo. Can you let us back through?"
You see him kind of look down at you. He disappears back over the top of the gate for just a moment or so. And then his head pops back over a minute later. "Very well. Proceed." And you hear the gate kind of creak and open as the doors are pulled open. And you see the familiar space, the one you came through before, kind of almost kind of airlock space for processing between two gates here. As you enter in, you can see the ground strewn with sawdust, which they have a plethora of and use to kind of keep the mud from being a problem here. And you see the same two members of the Hallow Guard standing in this space that you passed on your way out, as they look down at you. And they see you enter with Cole again in tow. And the one that you spoke to the first time steps up to you. He's pale-skinned, long, pale hair, and kind of tall and fine-featured, and looks down at you, Pim, and nods and says, "How did the search for the child's father go?"
Pim's going to look back at Cole for a second and then turn back to him and say, "We couldn't find him, so we're going to check back in town."
I'm processing. It's not exactly a lie.
Technically, it's the truth.
That's a very cleverly worded thing there. So, so yeah, I'm not gonna make you do a deception check on that. He looks down at you, kind of nods to you. He looks over. Hold on one second. And my poor rolling begins. Kind of looks at you all, eyes you just a little bit, and nods in your direction, and says, "Well, very well. Do you think that he's in town, or do you think he remains outside the walls?" Cole actually pops in at this point in time. He's like, "Oh no, I'm pretty sure he probably came in last night, and I just probably missed him. We're gonna go check the house and see if he's there." And the guard looks at him and says, "Very well. If he's not there and you need any assistance, please let us know. We'll be happy to help you search. We take care of our own." And he kind of nods and steps back, lets you all pass, and the gate closes behind you. Okay, what do you guys do? You seem to have made it through just fine here.
We're going to go to...
Follow Cole.
Yeah.
Okay, to Cole's house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He looks up at you and says, "Okay, follow me," and heads off through the other gate and into the town, which is bustling by this time. Many people on the streets running around. The sounds of pack animals and kind of work animals, as well as the kind of steady hum of voices and conversation moving back and forth, the clip-clap of horses' hooves. You can smell a variety of aromas in town here now instead of just the wood smoke earlier this morning. You smell bread baking and other things kind of wafting through the air as he takes you down the main track through the outpost of Baronhold, and you wander on the main track for a while before diving off into an area of very small, kind of compact homes that are built very close together. You get the sense that quite a few buildings have been crammed into a very small space in Baronhold to keep everybody as safe as possible. And he winds you through some kind of back streets and spaces between these buildings until you come to a small wooden kind of timber building. It's a long one-story stretch of buildings of a building with a door every so often in it that looks very apartment-like in this place. And he heads towards one of them. There's a step or two, just a little wooden frame step that kind of goes off. He kind of kicks the dirt off of his shoes as he walks up, and he turns and looks at you all, kind of lets his shoulders drop, and he turns and he knocks on the door and pushes the door open. Da, you here? And he steps into the building. You hear a mumble from inside, and he kind of turns and pops his head back out and kind of waves at you. It's a tight fit, but come on in.
I go in.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You enter and find a very, very small one-room situation. There is a kind of wood stove in one corner with a pipe running up through the ceiling that is cold. Doesn't seem to be putting off any heat at the moment. You see one timber frame bed in one corner with a very thin mattress on top of it, and another kind of bedroll kind of laid out next to it on the floor. You see a small rudimentary table and a few kind of odds and ends around, but not much to speak of in the way of personal effects or personal items. You do see a bow leaning in one corner, and a quiver of arrows kind of leaning up next to it. But other than that, you don't see a whole lot. You do see a figure, a form, kind of laying in the bed, turned over to you. Human. And turned towards you. Old, is kind of frail. You can see that the hair has gone pretty much entirely white and has thinned out quite a bit in many places. Turns and looks to you all. And does anybody want to? Yeah, I'll let you guys kind of dive in here, and then we'll see kind of where we go from there. He looks up. He looks up at you all, and he kind of widens his eyes, looks back at Cole, and says, "Oh, Cole. You brought friends home." And Cole looks at him and says, something like that. And he kind of turns back to you all and says, "Friends, this is my da. He's the only guy I got here in town. So," and he kind of just steps back. Not much else to say. Go ahead.
I'm gonna stride up and stick my hand out. Say, "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. You got a good boy here." And a Nasrael.
He raises a hand. He sits up at this point in time. You can see him. It's an effort for him to kind of sit up, and as he does, you see him begin to kind of cough, kind of as he sits up and kind of pushes and settles himself in, and then looks back up at you. "Excuse me." Holds out his hand. "What'd you say your name was? A Nazarel?"
Yeah. A Nasrael.
A Nazriel. It's certainly nice to meet you. Most folks call me Poe.
Oh.
That's good enough for me, he says.
Wicket's gonna kind of like hear this, but she's just gonna start like kind of closely examining and like walking around and like touching all the things and just being like, "Ooh."
Probably the most interesting thing that you see is what looks like maybe an oil lantern sitting in one side that looks to be in functional shape. But beyond that, just that kind of the wood stove and not else. But you poke around. You guys hear little noises, things kind of clinking and kind of moving and jostling as you talk. Who are the rest of your friends?
I'm going to turn towards my group with a slight flourish. Say, that's Wicket, and point at her.
It's actually Waywocket, Urkel, Carlin, Kirby, Eliwick, Tumbleduck, Timbers, but you can call me Wicket for short.
Please don't mind her. She touches things. That's Pimiver.
He nods.
That's Akerly, and this is my destiny, Bitsy.
He kind of looks down, he squints in your direction, and kind of nods his head. He kind of shakes his head, and kind of moves back again and looks at Cole and says, "Well, I'm glad to see that you've made some friends your own age." And he kind of squints back down at a few of you. And it's good.
How old are you, Cole?
What? What'd you
How
say?
old are you, Cole?
Me?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm 10. I don't look it exactly, but I am 10. I'm scrappy for my age, I'd say. And
You're your own age. No. I'm not. Are you guys 10? Does anyone raise your hand if you're 10?
Well, this one's not 10. And then he looks up at you and Azrael and says, it's good for you to be getting to know some adult folks as well. Hopefully something will rub off on you, he says. I must have slept in, he says. I need to grab my gear and get out and about before too much of the daylight's gone. And he see his legs kind of slide over the edge of the bed and his feet hit the ground. Go ahead.
I'm going to put a hand on his shoulder and say, I hear you're not feeling too well, sir.
He kind of cocks a head at you. Well, I've been better. But them's the perils of age, I suppose. Body is, well, it still works.
Well, how old are you?
Me?
Yeah, you.
75, he says.
Oh.
That's a pretty decent age.
And still going. And he kind of
Yes.
breaks into a excuse me. And he kind of
I'm
breaks
gonna
into-
like kind of gently tuck him back into bed as I'm saying, well, sir, you make aging look good. 75, I would never have guessed, handsome.
he's kind of like weirded out as you're pushing him back into the bed. He's like, "Oh no, I really do need to get out and check my snares and do a little hunting." So
Wicket kind of like
if I
looks
could-
around snares.
yeah, you got snares set up outside. They're just as likely to be empty as to have something in them, but it's worth checking.
Oh, I could check those for you.
He kind of looks confused.
And Astral's gonna nod.
Do I know you all?
Just as well. I just want to see how they work. I'll be right back. He's gonna like run outside.
The snares he's talking about are actually outside of the town set.
He's gonna like
catch
look
things.
around confused and then come back in dejected. I don't think I'm very good at finding your snares.
Well, I did hide them real well. He looks confused. No, honestly, is there something Cole and I can do for you? He's starting to kind of like wake up and have like wipe his eyes and kind of look a little closer at everybody. Go ahead.
Actually, we're here to help you.
How's that?
You tell me.
He looks at Cole. Cole's like,
I interject at this point,
yeah.
and I simply state, does anything need mending? Any clothes or objects?
I mean, you can see things are, in a relatively shabby-ish condition. You can see actually in both Cole's and his clothing, you can see some kind of patches and kind of snags and tears in their clothing. You can see an old broom that's been broken off in the middle of the handle that's kind of thrown into one corner of the room. And beyond that, there's not a whole lot else kind of in the space. So
I walk over to the broom,
mm-hmm.
Pick up the 2 pieces, and set them on the table. There's a table, right?
There's a very small rickety table, yep.
I then grab 2 lodestones from my bag and like rub them together and then set them on either side of the broken piece.
Okay. He's watching you kind of curiously.
And then cast Mending, which is a cantrip. This spell repairs a single break or tear on an object you touch.
Okay. You all watch and see kind of a small flare of energy as she wraps her hand around the break in this broom, and as her hand comes away from it, you can see that the broom is the handle is good as new, back together again, one long kind of unbroken wooden shaft. You hear Cole kind of gasp at that, and the dad kind of looks and says, "Well, I never."
Wicket's also going to be at the table, like peeking up, and then her eyes widen too, and she goes, "Oh, it's so cool!"
You see him kind of push and stand up just a little bit. Wow, that is useful. I'm not gonna lie. You're a magician.
Just a newbie.
She's being modest. She definitely can do some impressive things.
Then, if you don't mind my asking, what are you doing here? And he kind of stands up the best he can.
I'm gonna reach out.
You can't be in town to fix my broken brooms. He's starting to look around. He kind of looks at Cole, and he's starting to notice Cole's stature, the way that he's standing, kind of the way that he looks, and kind of looking back at all of you and then back at Cole. And then you see a light go on in his eyes as he's finally waking up, and he says, "What'd you do, kid?" And Cole kind of looks up, embarrassed.
I'm going to turn to Cole and say, "I didn't say anything."
I didn't do nothing, Dad. I was just making, some new friends. Said they could maybe help. Stop telling your lies to me, kid, he says. You got into trouble, didn't you? What's that?
The truth is that we got into kind of a sticky situation that Cole was involved in, and by the end of it, we were friends, and he gave me something cool.
A sticky situation, he says. He's got
sir.
Bar brawl. It was a brawl in a restaurant.
I'm gonna pinch the bridge of my nose because April is saying that.
You've been brawling in the restaurant, he says, and he looks at Cole.
Wicket jumps in and says, "Oh no, he wasn't brawling in the restaurant, but he led us to a brawl in the woods, and then we got almost killed because he led us into ambush thing." But it's all good and fine because now we're friends, I guess.
He looks at all of you. He looks down. You see him gaining energy back again into his body as his indignance kind of increases, and he walks over, and you see him kind of reach down and kind of grab the back of Cole's shirt and says, "I don't know what you did, kid, but I'm too old to deal with this myself. Come with me." And he grabs Cole and he starts kind of pulling him towards the door, and Cole's like, Dad, no, it's nothing. Everything worked out okay. Everything's fine, right? And he kind of looks back over at you all.
Yeah, everything's fine.
I'm gonna put my hand on his arm and say, "I'm pretty sure I already gave him an earful, and we really are on good terms."
You hear him mumbling, "Brawl in the woods," as he's kind of not listening to you. Took them out into the woods, did you? Gotten them in trouble. And he pushes the door open, and you guys have to see the sunlight kind of come in. He steps, kind of takes a step down, a bit of a wobbly step down the steps, and out into
Did
the
I say
place.
brawl in the woods? I meant a brawl in the no brawls. I meant a ball in the goods.
Make a deception check. I'm gonna have one of you make a deception check here to see if any of this is sinking in. We'll actually let the dice decide here. So
Betsy's just looking around confused. She doesn't
Who do you
know
want,
the
girl?
stories anymore. Was she even there? I don't think she was there.
Wicket's kind of backpedaling, so I'm gonna have her do the deception check for us at this point, because she's trying to kind of work her way out of this.
13.
13. He rolled a natural 20 on his insight check.
Oh,
He glares at you and he says, he turns finally to all of you, hears you guys coming out. Listen, no offense. I'm not sure where you're from or how you got here, but it's clear that you don't really know us or our situation. And it's clear that Cole has been up to his shenanigans again. Brawl in the woods, he says. Did any of you get hurt?
No,
Nope.
we're all fine. We're all fine.
Fine.
Nothing that we couldn't fix.
He looks down at Cole and kind of gives him a little bit of a shake again and says, tell me the truth, son. What'd you do? And Cole looks up and starting to look a little kind of indignant again, just a tiny bit angry, and kind of looks up and says, did what I had to. And he pulls the bag of coins out of his pocket and kind of gives him a shake. One of us has to make a living.
Oh,
And he
no.
looks up at his dad. His dad looks down at him and kind of almost is staggered by what his son said to him, and he drops his hold on him, kind of steps back a little bit, and you see him kind of stumble backwards and kind of sit down on the top of a barrel, just kind of lean against the top of a barrel that's sitting outside of the house and kind of wipe his brow. Listen, kid, I know that we hit a bit of a slump over the last little while, but Dad, we barely made anything in a week. I know, I just a little under the weather is all. I'll get myself back to it, but nothing worth getting into dangerous stuff over. And Cole looks back up at him and says, it all worked out okay. He kind of turns and looks at you all and looks at you all again. Right?
Of course.
Yeah, it was great. Totally fine.
You were
Yeah.
lucky.
And
Yeah.
Astriel's gonna look at Pim and just kind of like nod, like everything's fine, right?
everything's fine.
You at this point in time, you hear footsteps coming in your direction, and you turn and you see appearing between some of the buildings nearby. You see a couple of individuals moving in your direction. One of them is a female figure who is wearing, you can see the surcoat, the livery of the Hallow Guard, the blue surcoat with the symbol of the Hallow Guard on it. She's human, not elven. It's the first human that you've seen among the Hallow Guard so far. She's about 5'7". She's thin and has long, kind of deep red, kind of auburn hair. And you can see that she's got a large and imposing bow slung, over one shoulder, and then her hand on a kind of a short sword at her hip as she kind of steps around the corner, and she's accompanied by an elf, also Hallow Guard, who has kind of pale blue skin, platinum hair, and looks kind of small and young, but also dressed in the livery of the Hallow Guard, with a sword on his waist. As she kind of comes around, she sees you all, and she marches in your direction, and with kind of a look of purpose on her face. And she stops. She stops in front of you all, kind of takes in the situation that's going on, just kind of the group of you. You see her eyes linger on Cole for just a second, and then her eyes linger on you, Pim, as well, as she looks down in your direction and nods. And says, "Are you Pimaverli Gallo?"
Yeah, that's me.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you and your friends to come with me.
Why?
We're being arrested.
We have it.
Oh my gosh.
We have a few questions to ask you about some bodies that were found outside the city. It may not take long. We are curious. My Stanchion Commander is curious as to what happened, and when we asked the guards at the gate, they stated that you were the only ones to leave in search of this boy's father, who seems to be here and just fine. In any case, I'm sure we will sort everything out, but there are questions that must be asked, and I will need you to come with me.
You left a note.
Yeah, did Quaylen not get that?
We reported it.
Yeah. We're very thorough.
Reported it to who? She says.
Quaylen.
To the mayor, to the Baron, Quaylen.
Yeah, well, we don't know. We sent a note ahead.
Quaylen.
Well, I do not know if this note made it where it was intended to be or not, but I will need you to come with me. I'm sure if Baron Quaylen gets your note, he will come and find us.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn to Cole and his father. Say, I'm sorry. Looks like this is gonna be cut short. If you need anything, let us know.
Betsy's gonna run up to Akerly, kind of like pull on her. She's like, I think I saw you big, shiny. They look expensive pieces. Yeah.
Sorry, you said that to Akerly?
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand.
Money.
You want
I'm
money?
gonna swing around to Bitsy. Say, do not make this situation worse.
Were you about to tell her to bribe someone?
No. Just give me the money. Just the piece, the best piece you have.
I give her a platinum. 1 platinum.
Okay.
Of the 5
Take
platinum.
the piece. I'm gonna run over to Cole's dad.
Okay.
He's looking shell-shocked and a bit overwhelmed as he kind of leans back and
Okay. Can
Yes.
I take his hand?
Okay.
Okay, and then put the piece in it, and then can I kind of like check, because I have cure wounds,
Uh-huh.
but if it's old age, is there any way kind of like
You can certainly try.
it restores hit points? I just
Uh-huh.
don't know if it's that hit point, if it's like matter of hit points.
You can definitely try. Would you like to cast it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the spell slot for it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you cast Cure Wounds as you press the platinum piece into his hand. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
As you press the platinum piece in and cast the spell, you all see just a hint of kind of lavenderish, purplish energy kind of across him. You see that as you pull the hand back, you can see that he has straightened up ever so slightly, and he looks down at you, his eyes wide, and kind of like touches his chest a little bit, and looks back at you and stands up and kind of stretches. Well, he says, I haven't felt like this in years. He looks down at you.
Aw.
He kind of nods his head and says, thank you. And right about this moment, you hear the Hallowguard woman say, is the boy involved in this?
No.
I'm gonna turn around and smile at her and just say no.
Go ahead and you roll a deception check for me then.
Deception. Where art thou? Guys, I'm pretty sure I'm blind. Where are you? passed it like 4 times. There we go. I have a 19.
19 deception. Awesome. She looks at you. You see her kind of gazing into your eyes for a moment, and she nods her head, says, very well. The rest of you, if you could come with me, that would be appreciated. This doesn't have to take any longer than it needs to. And she kind of turns.
Sure thing. And I'm going to turn back to Cole and say, stay out of trouble, kid. And follow her.
He kind of looks at you guys. You hear him kind of softly say, thank you, as you guys walk away. The woman nods to the male elf Hallowguard member who sets out in front of you, leading you away. And she nods to the rest of you, kind of nodding with her head to follow.
As we leave,
Yep.
I stop by Cole and I rummage in my bag and pull out a small pamphlet. Actually, it's what are they called? A tapestry book?
A banner book?
Yeah, a banner book.
Okay.
And I hand it to him. It's the tenets of the Knight's Fallow, and I say, these really helped me out as a kid. Read through them, and maybe next time I'm in town, tell me what you think.
He takes them in his hand. This is probably the nicest thing he's ever held in his hands. To you, it's just a kind of an old book, but you all see as she pulls this out, there's a kind of a rod, a long kind of polished wooden rod, and hanging from it you can see pages, each page that is basically a tapestry, like a mini tapestry that's hanging from this rod. And as she hands it to him, he kind of holds it. You see him flip one open, and you can see that inside, as he opens it, there are images and words embroidered, like sewn, woven into each page of this, as if each was a small page of a book, but done up as a tapestry. And she hands this to him, and he kind of eyes wide looks at it and says, I've never had anything so nice. I'll make sure that I take good care of it. And looks back up at you. The Knight's Fallow, you say?
Best story out there.
I'll take your word for it. And you see him kind of turn, and he heads to his father. And they begin to kind of talk and at each other. Much of the tension is diffused between them as you see the dad kind of stretching his shoulders and looking a bit surprised, and the son kind of taking a closer look at the banner book. Are you done? The woman says.
Yes, I'm coming now.
Then let's go. And she kind of nods in the direction, and you all fall in, and she follows behind you, keeping an eye as you follow the other elven Hallowguard member. Takes you back through the back alleys between these buildings to the main road, and you guys take the main road towards the direction of the northern barracks of the Hallowguard. And you cross the road, you turn off into an area where there are some tall buildings. Some relatively tall buildings. These buildings are, a good portion of them are made from stone, but you can see again that they've been filled in with timber and plaster to fill in the gaps of the ruined buildings that were there. But there was significant buildings in this section of town to begin with, and they've been restored fairly well. You can see, you pass barracks and some kind of open spaces with a few horses inside of them, some kind of corrals that are there. You see some training yard with several individuals in there kind of practicing and going through combat forms. And as you walk, you get a bit of an odd look from a lot of people as you walk in a line between safely bookended by two Hallowguard members, and head in the direction of these barracks. You come to a building that is a 2-story building, and the door stands open, and there is a guard standing at the front. As you approach, the red-headed female Hallowguard member passes you and comes up to the guard and says, Stanchion Commander Sevik is expecting us. he kind of nods and steps inside, and then reappears a moment later, and he waves you in. "Follow me," she says, and she pushes through the door. You enter into a kind of a bit of an open entryway area, and she takes you through an archway in the back and down a short hallway, and turns into another room kind of in the back. You enter in, and you see that it is basically the office of the Stanchion Commander. It's a large kind of square room with a rug thrown across the floor, just a simple rug thrown on the floor. It's got, you can see a few kind of tables and some simple furniture around. You can see kind of a mannequin or a dummy standing in one corner with armor kind of placed upon it and around it. And you can see a small rack with a few weapons kind of leaning up against it. You can see a map of the area hanging back on one wall, and you see one large table that is acting as a desk in this area, and behind it you can see the form of Sevik, the Stanchion Commander of the Stanchion Commander of the Hallow Guard, and he looks up at you. And you see a man, another elven man, with the same pale skin as most of these elves from the north, platinum blonde hair, and very piercing ice blue eyes, looking at you in your direction. And he kind of he's actually not looking at you yet. He's engaged in activities as he looks down at his place. And you see him finishing off, kind of crossing some T's and dotting some I's as you enter in. And as you do, the redhead looks at, kind of addresses him as you file in behind him. "Stanchion Commander Sevik, I have brought the group who is in question to you as commanded." He finally looks up a moment later and says, "Thank you, Oz. I appreciate you acting so quickly." And he stands up, and he's average height, 5'10", 5'11", as he steps around. But there's a steadiness, a firmness to his gait. You imagine that he would be hard to knock down as he moves around. He walked with a fighter's stance, a fighter's grace, and stops and stands behind you. He's regaled in the same coat as the rest of the Hallow Guard, and he turns and he looks up at you. Hard to read the emotions that are in his face. "Who is the leader of your group?"
We're all gonna look around, and then Pim's gonna step forward.
"Master Lee Gallo."
Heard you were looking for us.
"Yes, we were looking for you. Mostly because of the bodies that we found lined up outside the stockade. I will admit that they intrigued me, not only me but others. And when I heard that you had left with a small group earlier on, we sought you right away. Do you happen to know anything about what happened outside of the gates today?"
Yeah. I apologize that we didn't come to you right away. We were bringing the boy back home, so. But we did send a note. We ran into a group when we were out looking and had a bit of a conflict.
A bit of a conflict, you say? 4 bodies dead. You all stand? Were there any other casualties that I do not know about?
No.
They attacked us.
Did they now?
Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear the story. And he kind of leans back.
Betsy's gonna step forward
Okay.
and cast.
Wow. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But, okay, so we walk out into
this clearing. And she's gonna cast Minor Illusion.
Okay.
And she's gonna start kind of narrating this story, just word by word, very dramatic kind of retelling.
Being who I am, I'm going to accompany her musically.
She pulls out her instrument for background music. Okay, and you tell the story. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but do you basically walk through kind of what happened?
Just basic illusions, like magic here, the little fireballs, and kind of like the outlines of big men, and just like, and like then they drop, and then I'm like, go over to Wicket, and I just give an outline of Wicket, and I'm like, pew! And another one drops down, and these guys are like, we want your stuff, and we're like, yeah, no, dude, you can't have our stuff. It's our stuff. And it was really like childish on their part, but like, we were being really good about it, and like big people, and that's saying something, and yeah, so
he waits patiently through all of this. He's got a bit of an amused expression on his face as this little kind of light show goes on. Do you keep anything back, or do you share what actually happened? Is there anything that you are intentionally trying not to include in this, or?
No,
We're leaving out the bits about Cole, right?
Yeah, I just
Well,
don't.
Cole was there.
He was there, but he
about
didn't.
the beginning or the end. I just say the middle part because Cole is only included in the very, very beginning and the very.
We say that Cole led us there to look for his
he
father.
wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
And then we were
got
ambushed.
We were ambushed.
Is Minor Illusion a cantrip?
Yeah.
Awesome. Does it include sound or just images?
It can include sound, but I'm not going for sound here.
Okay, so you weave this tale using the illusion. Do you include things like he asked about Pym and mentioned Pym's boat and things like that?
I said
in the course of this?
Pym's stuff. 'Cause Pym's got some cool stuff. I mean, Pym's pretty cool, but he's got some pretty cool stuff.
And he once you're finished, he claps once or twice to you. Very interesting report, he says to you. So what you're saying is that they ambushed you while you were out.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that it seems that they had something in mind. They had a reason for doing so, at least a stated reason, a reason they stated. Had something to do with you, Pym? And he looks down at you.
Seems to be the case.
What were they after exactly?
They were after some of my stuff, or me, or to be honest, I'm not entirely sure.
Did you recognize them? If they were after you, are these people that you knew? People from your past? Enemies, perhaps?
No, I've never seen them before.
That is odd, don't you think?
Yes, I do think it's odd.
That is very odd. That they seem to know you and be interested in you, but they are not anybody that you seem to know in any way.
In Pym's defense, everyone in this town seems to know who he is.
I spend a lot of my time running people around. I'm sure I've made some enemies along the way.
Intriguing. Well, looking at you, I must say that I am also surprised. You did very well. You held your own in this fight. So congratulations on that. He turns back around and kind of moves back around the other side of the table. Did you notice anything else that you think is worth mentioning that might help us to uncover or discover what it is that these men were after?
There was a brand.
A brand, you say?
It was a really cool brand.
What brand? What do you mean?
It was like a tree feather, and it like was in a kind of circle, and it was like on the thing and on the multiple.
You
things.
have some paper.
You draw it on paper?
I'm asking him if he has paper so we can draw it.
Yeah. He kind of sits back and kind of holds his hands up. You can see that there's a quill and a kind of a small ink pot there next to some parchment on the table. Please.
I'm gonna step forward. Are they on the stones?
What's that?
Are they on the stones Cole gave me? Is that
Oh
the
yeah,
mark?
they are.
Yes.
Just show 'em the
Yes,
phone.
they are.
Does he have ink?
He does. Yeah, there's ink there on the table.
Okay. And Asriel is gonna take out one of the stones, literally dump ink on it, and then press it onto the paper
Interesting.
and hand him the paper with the mark on it.
He kind of lifts it up and looks at it. Interesting. Well, I see this mark is on the stone that you bear. You said a brand. Was it somewhere else that you noticed?
It was on the weapons.
Well,
Maces, yeah.
Really? The
Along with a skull, they had a egg-shaped skull along the head of their mace.
He turns and looks at the redhead. Oz, do you know the mace that they're speaking of? And she looks down and says, yes, they each had a mace on them. Would you like me to fetch one? And he says, that would be wonderful. And she kind of turns and heads out of the room. Interesting. I'm not sure I can make heads or tails of this symbol, but it was on each of their weapons, you say, which is interesting. If nothing else, it seems to me that there may be something deeper going on here, and I'm trying to decide how deeply involved you all might be in this. Not to be rude, but many of you we don't know. You are very new here, and we must be careful here on the edge.
We're not like involved. We just came to be heroes.
Well, not like heroes, just to find out who we are in general.
Well, I mean, we're probably gonna be heroes though.
Well, you never know.
He's an elf, right?
He's an elf, yeah.
You could be a hero. Or...
I mean, Akerly's definitely gonna be a hero. I'm
no doubt.
trying to
Yeah.
see if I'm gonna be a hero, but we're here really. I'm here to make sure Akerly's a hero, and I'm just kind of here for the ride. And something about destiny, but it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Well, I think Destiny plays a very, very big part in it. I think Akerly's destiny is very, very big chance of being a hero. I think what I've seen from Akerly. Akerly, you've got lots of hero material in you. There are a lot of things about
the one who
that.
Akerly would be a great
I
hero.
literally just go be red and just stand there.
So
he holds up a
away.
hand. He holds up a hand after a moment of you all talking. You see him kind of pinch the bridge of his nose and say, I understand. So you came here to join the uplifted hand as what, a venturing hand, and go out into the wilds. You seem to have held your own just fine, but this will still need to be looked into. I'm afraid that I will need you to remain here for just a little while I sort this out, and we'll try to get it sorted as quickly as we possibly can, and hopefully things will work out well for you. But we must be thorough. It is our job to protect those in this village, and particularly here on the edge of the wild. There are dangerous elements, and anything new that rears its head is of particular interest to us, and we must be vigilant against it. I have heard only good things about you, my friend Pim, and he looks down at you. You have been very helpful in the establishment of this village, and I have no reason to believe that you are connected to those that have ill will against us here in this outpost. There are many who speak highly of your contributions. Do you vouch for the rest of these?
yes, I can vouch for them.
And you are willing to go on the record as saying that the story told and performed by your friend here, your friends here, was accurate?
Yes.
Very well. and right about this time, you hear outside the door voices being raised. You will have to wait just a moment. You can hear the woman Oz saying to somebody outside. I'm afraid I don't have a moment, you hear from outside. I must speak to those inside immediately. To your commander. Is he here? He is here, but he is speaking with somebody right now, and I cannot just let you barge in. I'm afraid I must speak with him immediately. It's of the utmost importance. Sevik kind of stands up and walks forward. Oz, who's there? Sir, someone's here to see you. Do you have a moment? And the door kind of opens, and you can see her standing there with an old human man, pale skin, white, thin hair, dressed nicely, kind of in relatively nice clothing, and he kind of peers in through the door. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
And Sevik looks at him. You. And he says, yes, it's me. And he steps in the door. I'm afraid that I'm going to have to involve myself in this situation. These are, in fact, members of the visitors to the outpost. They are civilians at this point in time, and not connected to the uplifted hand, nor are they to be judged necessarily by the uplifted hand. I've been sent here by the Baron to ensure that their rights are being protected and that they are being seen to as fairly as they possibly can. He turns to you and kind of, you can see he's got kind of a pair of spectacles on the end of his thing. He's wearing a long kind of loose coat that's somewhere between almost like a lab coat and a trench coat. You can see large voluminous pockets inside. You can see a nice kind of vest through the inside of it, but you can see there are things in his pockets. You see there's ink on his fingertips, and he kind of looks down at you and kind of winks and says, "The name's Aleprian Stavel. I'm the steward of the Baron, and I'm here to make sure that things go the way that they should. The Baron received your note. I came as quickly as I possibly could." And looks kind of up at Sevik. I am understanding of the fact that something happened here, so is the Baron, and that things will need to be investigated. And the Baron offers his services to keep an eye on these during the investigation, if that is okay with you. Since it is a civilian situation, so to speak, we appreciate your help investigating things, but we will take these into our care until then. Sevik kind of looks at them and kind of looks at him and looks back at you all and says, "I've pretty much wrapped up our interview. I'm afraid they must stay in the outpost until we understand better what is going on. They will be staying with you then, with the Baron? Yes, we will house them at Quayland's Rest until this investigation is over, and we'll do a little more interviewing of our own, some digging around. I'm afraid," Sevik cuts in, "that I'll want to send a guard or two with you, just to make sure that everybody stays where they should be. They won't hamper anything, but just to make sure until everything is investigated and figured out."
I'm going to kind of grumble at this point. Story of my life when it comes to elves.
Do you say it loud enough for him to hear?
Yeah. I say it quietly but loud enough that they can hear me. And then just look around like I didn't say anything at all.
You get a weird kind of side glance from Sevik. Very well.
How long will the investigation take?
That's entirely dependent on what we discover. I will send members of the guard out right away to investigate the scene a little more thoroughly in light of the story that you've shared, to see if the facts that we have at our disposal there, by virtue of our senses and what we have, line up with the story that you've told me. If they do seem to line up, and if nobody else in town or anybody that we know of seems to know these individuals, then it may come to naught, but we will get all the information that we can. We would appreciate it if you stayed within the outpost until we knew more. Would that be a problem?
No, that's fine.
Very well.
Can I kind of do a perception to see where the gold thing? What's the outline? My destiny. Where's my destiny going?
Oh, you kind of blink your eyes and kind of open things back up again, and nope, you don't have any sense of the kind of glow of destiny and anywhere at all. Just the room as it stands. Very well. Well, it sounds like these have been through quite a traumatic experience, so I'll take and get them settled in until the investigation can go. Very well, Sevik says. Oz, would you and Elkia mind going with these, escorting them to Quaylin's Rest, make sure that they get there safely, and make sure that no other interlopers bother them. And Oz kind of looks knowingly back at Sevik again and says, "That's not a problem. I'll make sure that we keep an eye on things closely. We wouldn't want anything to happen to them," she says. And she kind of steps back and kind of holds her hand out. "Very good," Aleprian says and turns. "Come with me." And he leads you out the door. And we will go ahead and stop for a break right there real quick before we go into the next little section of this. Take a bit of a break. Thanks for those that have stuck here with us, and those that are hanging out in chat. It's good to see you guys talking to each other. Hey, Charge Bolt 137. Good to see you again, Mr. L Random. And as always, Jay Schieber and the others of those that are here. It's good to see you guys there. Thanks for hanging with us up until now. We will take just a few minutes to stretch, and then we'll be back again to see what we get into next. So let me get to the right spot here, and we will return in just a moment. And we're back. Welcome back to Character Choices. Those of you that are still hanging in here with us, we left off just before the break with her group being questioned briefly by Stanchion Commander Sevik, and then being interrupted by an older gentleman, steward of the Baron, named Aleprian, who showed up to take you in the direction of Quaylin's Rest once again. And you all are heading that way now. You are following with Aleprian kind of in a group in the direction of the inn, and the two Hallow Guard members, Oz, you heard her called several times. The one with the kind of red hair, and as you kind of pass and come into closer contact with her, also realize that she has very intense eyes. They are a deep navy blue with kind of a pinprick of white in the center of them, as she kind of stares intently at you, and follows nearly behind you as you go, along with you heard the name Elkia, the other elven Hallowguard member who is with you. And they kind of are trailing behind you, maybe 5 to 10 feet, as Aleprian leads you off in the direction of Quaylin's Rest, speaking to you as he goes. "I'm very sorry that I didn't get there sooner," he says. "It took us just a moment to calm down your messenger long enough to retrieve the note that was placed on there. In fact, I didn't. It took us a moment to even notice there was a note." He was very excited, dancing in ways we'd never seen a creature quite like him dance upon our table. But
He's quite talented.
Yes, he is. Oh, that reminds me. And he kind of reaches inside of the giant jacket that he's wearing, and you see him kind of rustle around and pull your Martin out. And your Martin is like, and kind of leaps in your direction. Very proud of himself, you can tell from his posture and his stance on the thing.
That's so good. I'm so proud of you. This is like why you're my best friend. I'm so proud of you.
Very useful, that, for sure, as a bit of a messenger. Next time I'll know what I'm looking for. And he looks at you guys all. Are you in good health? From what I understand, you were in a bit of a scrap. You don't look the worse for wear. And he kind of looks over your guys' form, kind of eyeballing the general state that he finds you in.
I need a nap. But, I mean, other than that.
That we can help with. That's why there's beds upon beds where we're going. And he kind of continues to lead you in that direction. The Baron was very interested to hear what it is that you sent him. From what I understand, you were put upon outside of the city walls, and you had some very interesting descriptions that you placed inside of your letter to us. The Baron's favorite color is purple, by the way. He wanted me to let you know that. Anyway, but I'm not going to lie to you. You will be under suspicion for a moment by at least some. There are many that are not too hot-headed and not too quick to judge here, but there are some that are very quick to judge, and so they take the security of this place very seriously. So, in any case, we will get ourselves involved and make sure that the investigation is going properly, the way that it's supposed to be going. He stops and turns and looks at you in the street. There's nothing nefarious going on here, is there? And he kind of looks at you all very kind of straightly, more sober than he has been, more put together all of a sudden. It all happened as you said it happened. Am I right?
I'm going to smile, say, yep, pretty much.
Technically,
she's not lying.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
It's just the cool thing that you really kept out of that note, right? So everything else is pretty much that way. He kind of eyeballs you for a moment.
Come on, do I look nefarious?
I'm just seeing what he gets from his kind of general sense of kind of insight. So, well, he says, I will choose to believe you until the evidence, unless the evidence shows otherwise. Come, let us go. And continues heading off. You guys pass through town once more, becoming very familiar with these stretches between these places. You begin to head up the hill towards the small kind of bluff upon which Quaylen's Rest sits. And you come within sight of the inn. You see it appear, the stables beyond it, you approach it, and you actually are surprised to see two individuals standing out front, one of whom is Handarl Quaylen himself. Seems to be standing there speaking with another figure that you do not recognize. As you draw nearer, realizes that this individual is relatively exotic looking, and not the same as anyone else that you've seen nearby. Master Quaylen, Aleprian says as you guys approach, I have them with me. And Handarl turns and sees you all and kind of raises a hand and turns back to the other individual and kind of finishes speaking for just a moment. And they both turn and kind of walk out to meet you. Handarl steps forward. Well met. Are you all okay? He says.
We're fine.
I'm glad.
I'd like a nap.
Well, we'll see if we can get to that. I'm afraid your nap will have to wait for just a little while, he says. You have been summoned to the chambers of Oath-Taker Locent, and that's a rare occurrence, and nothing to be taken lightly. And he turns and he turns to point to the individual behind him, and the individual steps forward, and you see stepping towards you. You see another elf, looks to be male, dressed in silver robes, and you can see that his hair is definitely kind of shorn along the top edges, with kind of just a spike of hair along the top. You can see that he is got kind of a bluish skin, kind of like Elkia, the male elf that's with you, and has a variety of kind of baubles and things upon him. The thing that strikes you the most about this individual is that as he looks at you, you're unnerved by the fact that one of his eyes seems to have been replaced with some sort of kind of a milky green stone of some kind. He has one normal eye, and then one eye that appears to be made of some sort of stone-like material. In fact, definitely.
Would I know what that is?
Wicket, you would recognize the stone immediately. He's got a moonstone eye. One of his eyes is completely made of moonstone. And you can see that it's glowing ever so slightly, kind of this milky green color, as he peers at you, and it's very unnerving. He kind of steps in and kind of nods in your direction as you're brought here. And there we go. Quaylen turns and looks at you and says, may I introduce you to Levin, the proxy-bound aide of Oath-Taker Locent. He has been sent here to retrieve you. It would appear that news of what has happened has reached his chambers, and he has questions of his own for you. He looks down at you once again and says, I'm not going to lie. He generally tries to stay clear of much of what happens here outside of the more ritualistic aspects of what is done here in Baronhold. And so this is not normal. But I've heard that he is a fair and intelligent being, and I would counsel you to accept this invitation, to be forthright and to be honest, and to let the chips fall where they may. Do you all concur?
By whose standards?
Say that one more time.
By whose standards is he fair?
By...
You said this guy's an elf, right?
Which guy?
The guy with the weird eye.
The guy with the weird eye is an elf, yeah. You can see his kind of long, thin ears and elfin features.
I'm gonna step forward and say that then, and give this elf kind of a hard look, and then turn back to Handarl Quaylen and repeat myself.
By the standards of the powerful, those whose responsibility extends beyond just themselves and a small group of people to a larger group of people. You must think in higher terms, and he seems to do well in such situations. And by all accounts, has done a fair job since we've set up the outpost here in Baronhold. He largely dabbles in learning about this area and adding to the knowledge and wisdom that we have in regards to what's going on here. And he is a bit of a cleric of Davet. And so generally steers clear of the politics. He leaves that up to me, and he leaves that up to the high leader of the Hallowguard here in Baronhold, Soriel Rovayaneth, who is in charge. And largely, we handle things on our own. I can think of only 1 or 2 times where he has intervened in such a way. I imagine it has something to do with his curiosity. And he turns and looks at Levin as he says this, and Levin simply nods. He has not spoken yet at all. He just nods in the direction of Handarl and yourself.
I'm gonna turn to... Is it Levin?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna turn to Levin. Give me your opinion.
Give me a persuasion check, unless you're... Yeah, give me a persuasion check.
A second to pull up my sheet. Persuasion. I have a 24.
Wow. Yeah, you are a persuasive person.
Charisma's my thing, man.
Right. He stares at you for a moment without saying much before you see him nod ever so slightly, and you see one hand disappear into his robes. And he draws out what looks to be a small piece of kind of leaden gray metal that is a thin rod that is bent into a bow shape. It's about yay long, bowed out to one side, and strung between the 2 ends of the bow is what looks to be a kind of quivering ribbon made of pure light, from what you can tell. It is a blue color, kind of a deep cerulean blue, and there are pale kind of lavender lines kind of running and pulsing through it between, and it seems to be almost magnetically attached to the metal at each end of this bow. The metal itself looks to be almost like pewter, kind of, a kind of leaden kind of metal, and he holds it up, and you see the moonstone eye flash with light. And as it does so, he makes a gesture with his hand, and you can see the little ribbon of light ripple, and you hear the sound of a voice appear in thin air, and the voice says out loud to you, "You may trust my proxy-bound aid, Levin.
He speaks the truth, and Handal Quaylen is one of the wisest men I know. If you would join me, I would greatly appreciate it, for I have questions for you, and potentially insights into your situation that might prove well for you. And he lowers the thing, and he slides it back into his robe, and he nods again in your direction.
Wicket's eyes follow the little thing, and then she like runs up and she goes, "What was that? How did you do that? What? Okay, I saw the moonstone. Is that like what happened to your eye, by the way? Like, what is that about? And how did you get like why did you put the moonstone into the eye? What does it do?"
He raises one hand in front of you, and he just kind of shakes his head.
I grab Wicket by the back of her shirt and pull her back.
I'm gonna turn back to Levin. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't had much luck with elves in the past. Do you think that will be different with your master?
He simply nods at you.
Very well, I'll go. I'm gonna step back.
Handarl steps beyond you at this time to approach Oz and Elkia, who have pulled up behind you. And you hear Oz, "What is going on?" "We've been summoned to the offices of the Oath Taker Locent. We must go there immediately. You may accompany if you wish," she says. She kind of counsels with Elkia very briefly, and she looks surprised. You see her eyes kind of widen. "Very well," she says. "We will follow you to this place and stand by you until you are done." "Very well," Handar Quaylen says, and says, "This way," and begins to walk down the hill once again towards the other side of the city. You look like you're about to say something, Bitsy. Did I get that wrong? Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna run up kind of to the side of Quaylen and be like, "So, when you say rituals, like, what kind of rituals exactly?" And then you kind of say he's a cleric and he's discovered things. I'm a little confused. And it's okay if you don't have answers. I totally understand if you don't have answers. I obviously don't have answers. And the other thing is, like, I keep hearing a lot of things about, what the hand and what are interlopers?
I'm gonna fall into step.
I don't know what that is.
I'm gonna fall into step beside Bitsy and just interject and say, "Perhaps you should check your destiny."
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. I'm gonna squeeze my eyes shut and open and hope that destiny is there.
Right. I'm gonna have you do go ahead and do a will. It's not will. Do a wisdom. Let's make a wisdom saving throw out of it.
Saving throw.
Until I figure it out.
14.
You close your eyes and you're like, "Hold on," after you just asked a whole load of questions to Handarl and then proceeded to not get answers. He watches as you close your eyes and squeeze them tight shut, and you open them. And as you open them, you can see that a line of amber light has appeared upon the ground before you, and is running off in front of your group. And that Master Quaylen seems to be walking exactly along that line. It seems that this direction towards the chambers of the Oath Taker seem to be in line with your destiny.
I think we're heading on the right path here. So that's a good feeling. And if you can't answer the questions, that's okay. Because I feel like I haven't, what is it called?
Little one.
Feeling.
He says, "Little one." I apologize. I should probably not refer to you as little one.
I was about to say, but
You are smaller than I am used to.
yeah, and you're smaller compared to a lot of things, but I don't rub that in your face now, do I? Anyway, that was kind of
Yes. I could answer some of your questions if you'd like. I know a bit about what's going on. It sounds maybe a bit more than you do. You've made it here without access to much information, it would seem.
close to none. But yes, I'd love to get some
And he
answers.
continues walking. You see him raise his hands occasionally as he's greeted by individuals in town as you pass them. Well, to put a long story short, this enterprise here in Baronhold is the combination of civilian locals, those of us from within Andromar, and a member of the army of the Bower King. The Bower King brought a force from outside with him, and from what I understand, that force, which we call the Hallow Guard, which they call the Hallow Guard, we know them as the Hallow Guard, I should say, has been extracted largely from the larger defensive apparatus of the nation of Rionia, where they come from, which is known as the Uplifted Hand. So they are, in a way, a branch of the Uplifted Hand, and they are quite powerful. They seem to have been blessed, changed in some way that gives them an advantage in many situations. And it is with their help that the Bower King overran the remaining nations of Andromar and sought to begin his quest to bring things back together again. The Oath Taker has come as a bit of an administrator and a cleric of sorts to, in particular, place the oaths upon those who enter into the service of the Bower King, who want to be involved in what they call the noblest cause. Any who wish to participate in what is happening and to benefit from it must do so under oath, and it is he that administers the oaths and keeps those oaths. And from what I understand, he is quite powerful, a wizard of great magics. So yes, it's a bit of a conglomeration. The Hallow Guard, pulled from the Uplifted Hand, although not all of them came from there, as well as the Oath Taker and his retinue, who are involved in the administrative and clerical kind of aspects of what is happening here. And then myself, I am here as just a civilian leader, and I try to take care of my own, those that live and work here, that are not a part of the oath, the Hallow Guard. Those who are bound by oaths, you'll know them. They all wear the kaima, which is a bracelet that you may have seen upon the wrists of those who are in the service of the Bower King. The kaima is the symbol of that oath and is binding, from what I understand, in ways beyond just your word of honor. And also, I believe, to be the source of some of the power, the additional power that some of these more zealous of the Hallow Guard seem to be in possession of. There's much, much more to it. Does that answer some of your questions, child?
Not for now. I trust you. So, I think, yeah, that's good. Thank you so much.
Very well, very well. No, that's not a problem at all. And I apologize again for calling you little.
That's okay. I forgive you.
And he kind of stands, and you see that by the time you finish this conversation, you've made it pretty much across town, and you are approaching now a building, a compound, really. There is a smaller kind of compound within the city. This is on the opposite side of many of the buildings. You can see fields off behind you, still within inside of the city. Those of you that know anything about farming know these fields aren't nearly big enough to actually feed everybody inside of Baronhold, and so I'm a bit curious what it is that they're doing there and what they're hoping to accomplish by that. But you approach kind of a compound. You can see the tops of buildings on the other side of another smaller kind of timber stockade. There's a thin timber wall that is built to block this, and a much smaller gate than the one outside of the city in the front. And you're approaching that gate, and you can see other members of the Uplifted Hand, the Hallow Guard,
standing watch here. And you can see flanking the gate, on either side of the gate, hung over from the top, you see 2 banners hanging there. On the right side is the deep blue banner with the symbol of the Hallow Guard, the uplifted hand, the triple golden ring, octagon rings that are kind of offset from each other, with the uplifted hand rising above it. And what you believe now is the kaima that he spoke of, the bracelet with kind of the dangling tethers that reach down and are tethered to the octagon upon this deep blue banner. And on the left side of the gate, you see a new banner. It's a green banner with a symbol of what looks like a simple pavilion-like structure, kind of gazebo-like, with kind of a domed roof done in warm brown on the green. And inside of it is another hand, this one raised upright, palm kind of facing the viewer, and it's done in gold. As you approach, Handarl, Master Quaylen kind of leans over to you, Bitsy, and says, that's the emblem of the hallowed hand, another term for the Bower King. The Oath-Taker is his representative here in town, more directly than those of the Hallow Guard. And he kind of stands up and raises a hand in greeting to the guards that stand outside of the gate. They nod.
Copy him.
Sounds good. They nod to him as he approaches. They see Levin, who steps kind of forward, and he doesn't even acknowledge them, but he just walks past the guards through the open gate and into the compound, and you all follow. You enter in, and you can see the House of Davet, which is a large building, stone and timber, but seems to have more stone than some of the other buildings. It's a simple 2-story rectangle, but on a largish scale, with its own stockade around it. And you enter up in through the door into the structure, into hallways, and you can see as you pass through the building, administrative offices. You see rooms where individuals seem to be interviewing people, having talks. You see other non-elf and people that aren't wearing kaimas that are in here, being kind of interviewed and kind of checked on. You can see many individuals running kind of to and fro in service of whatever is taking place here. And Levin leads you directly back through the center of the building, and to where there is another kind of large door that opens up into a separate kind of part of the building connected on the back end of the main block. And he turns you into a small room. And this room is kind of a small anteroom, and is kind of square and plain in shape and design. It's furnished with several padded chairs off to one side, around kind of a low, almost coffee table style thing in this room. It's the first really padded furniture that you've seen here in town. You can see that there are green things growing, pots with plants in the corners, large ones, tall and vividly green against the stone of the wall. And you see light coming through the thatched roof. You look up to see 2 skylights that are basically just wooden boxes that have been built into the thick thatch of the roof, with a simple kind of glass pane on top of them that are letting light down into the room. As you enter this space, Levin walks up to a door on the opposite side of this room. It is large wooden doors, simple. There are 2 of them. And there are symbols etched, kind of carved into into each door, and you see that they're the same emblems on the banners outside: the emblem of the Hallow Guard and the emblem of the Hallowed Hand, the Bower King, on one side. Levin approaches, and you see that standing there is another female elf, who has her hair cut very short on the sides, and very short and kind of combed over to the side on the top. She's dressed very smartly, and she's sharply dressed and seems to be very well poised and kind of put together. And she looks in your direction as you guys enter the room, and Levin approaches her. She nods towards Levin. And then kind of steps past him to all of you. Welcome to the office of the Oath-Taker. I am afraid I will have to ask that if you have any weapons, that you leave them here. Do any of you have weapons upon you? And she kind of looks, generally speaking, at you.
I'm gonna step forward.
Yep.
And undo my rapier from my side.
Okay.
Is there a specific place I'm supposed to put it, or just hand it to her?
She kind of holds her arms out, and as if to have you just lay them across her arms.
So I lay that there, and I believe. Let me double check my equipment. Hang on.
You may
also pull a dagger.
You may leave your daggers on your person. Any more martial weapons I will take from you. Swords, crossbows, other such things.
Wicket pulls her crossbow out and hands it over. I've got 2 daggers, but you said I could keep them. And I have my one, but that's not really a thing like what you're saying, so I think I can keep that too, right?
That's fine. That's fine. Not a problem. And we'll just say for ease of time that she slowly kind of collects whatever weapons, unless any of you wish to say like, nuh-uh. Anybody?
No, compliant.
She turns back towards Levin, gives him a nod, and he pushes the doors open once the weapons are in your hand. The doors open and you all enter a relatively large room. It is a kind of a long rectangular room in the center with kind of a high ceiling, a high kind of arched ceiling. And then there are 2 additional spaces off to either side that run along with a lower ceiling. And the central area is separated from the sides by wooden posts that run up along each side of it. You can see a long, ornate carpet laid on the floor in here. It is very rich in color, and it's blue. It has silver, kind of sharp geometric designs running all around and through it and kind of woven into the carpet on the floor. To either side, in the spaces either side where the roof is lower and there are these long rectangular kind of annexes to this main central part of the room, you see tables, just tables everywhere. There's a variety of tables. There are large kind of rectangular tables set off in the center of the spaces in a variety of configurations, and there are long kind of low, narrow tables or tall, narrow tables set up against the walls, and every single one of these tables is just covered in a variety of things, items on the table, many of which are organic and kind of natural and pulled from the area. You see a table just full of gourds and pumpkins, some of which have been sliced open with a kind of unappetizing looking innards on the inside of them kind of pulled out. You see a table with just several piles of dirt on it, just in small kind of piles laid out, each of a slightly different shade. You can see small kind of slabs of rock that are laid out. You see on one table that there are what looks to be the sliced, kind of very precisely sliced rings from tree trunks, where they've kind of taken cross sections of tree trunks and very thin kind of discs, and they're kind of stacked and laid up on the table. And in and among and around all of this stuff, you see apparatuses kind of holding bits and pieces. And you see beakers and glass jars that have liquid floating inside of them, some with plants floating in the liquid. And all of these are being kind of held up by metallic kind of stands and frames that are all made from what appears to be the same sort of metal that you saw him use when he produced the voice earlier, that little bow that you saw. This kind of same kind of leaden gray pewter-like metal seems to be connected to all of this. And each table has near it or above it what appears to be a torch light. Although you'll note that in some places it's very close to the thatched ceiling and doesn't seem to be burning the ceiling at all, but is casting very precise light down onto each of these tables. It's just a jumble of things that are all relatively orderly, but just kind of a massive variety as you enter the room. The room goes in for about maybe 30 or 40 feet. And Levin precedes you through the center of this room. Excuse me. At the back of the room, you can see a chair. It's a large chair, wooden, with a high back And you can see maroon upholstering kind of on it. And sitting upon it, you see an individual. And this individual is very striking as you near. It's tall and thin, humanoid, but his skin is a rich cobalt blue. You can see as you get closer kind of a faint mottling of lighter blue in places. His head is perfectly bald, and he has a wide flattened nose that kind of comes down very flat above deep blue kind of generous lips. And as you get close enough, you can see that his eyes are a pale lavender color. And from what you can tell, he doesn't seem to have ears at all. He's wearing a very long silver robe with intricate geometric shapes lining the wide cuffs that seem to cover his hands entirely and seem almost to be closed at the end, as if his hands were locked or trapped inside of the sleeves of this robe. The lines and shapes are all done in a lavender thread that's very similar to the color of his eyes. He wears a stole across his shoulders, kind of like the sorts of things that you see on alumni or faculty at universities, with two straight scarf-like things coming down on either side. And you can see the emblems of the Hallow Guard and the emblem of the Hallowed Hand or the Bower King featured prominently, but surrounded by just lush detail, all done in thread all around it on either side. The one, as you approach, you actually do notice that the one of the uplifted hand, the Hallow Guard, is slightly different. The hand itself is not present. It's just the three golden octagons, the outlines of three old golden octagons kind of offset that seems to be on this. But you do notice that there's a bit of kind of a line, a subtle line running through one of the corners of it, and that's all that it seems to have on it. You see that upon his head is a bit of a diadem, a thin band of gold with a highly polished 8-sided disc of thin leaden metal, that same sort of metal that you've seen in other places, hanging just at the center of his forehead. And beyond that, just he has a small silver hoop earring in his left ear, but that's all else that you see. And he sits still and tall, straight of back, straight of neck as you approach, as Levin walks up. And Levin walks up and takes his place standing beside on the right-hand side of the man, of this creature that is not elf, not human, not anything that is easily recognizable. In fact, are there any of you that have like history as a skill, like decent as a skill, like are proficient in it? Go ahead and make a history roll for me, Akerly.
I rolled low, but 12.
12.
I'm also proficient in history too. I have proficiency in that one.
Okay, go ahead and why don't you go ahead and give me a roll then?
Uh, 20.
Awesome. Yeah. With the 20, you will have heard, as you had ferried people kind of in and up and around. You will remember hearing that, and you've never been in here or seen this. You've been part of the establishment of Baronhold, but you have never been in here or seen this individual before. But you've heard rumors that that among the higher kind of administrators of the Bower King's new regime are several Vidalcan individuals as far as the race goes, and this would appear to be a member of the Vidalcan race. And you've heard that they are brilliant in terms of their intelligence in their minds, and that they help in that way. Levin stops up next to this man, Oath-taker Locent. You heard him called by Master Quaylen, and just places his hand on the arm through the robe, and just lets it sit there, the arm of the Oath-taker, as you all approach. You guys come in, you stop short, and Master Quaylen is in front of you. And he nods his head. Oath-taker Locent, it is good to see you once again. And you can see the Oath-taker's head nod, and he looks down and says, "Well met, Master Quaylen. It is good to see you as well. We do not find enough opportunities to spend time with each other," he says to him. "That is true," Master Quaylen says. "I admit I was surprised to hear of your interest in these individuals, many of who are new here in the outpost. You do not seem to have taken an interest in those that stay at my inn before." "This is true," the man says as he nods his head at you. And he looks down at all of you standing there. And you can see him take time as he looks and like glances at each of you, and his eyes kind of pass over each of you. You feel him really look at each of you with very observant eyes. And he says, "But to be honest, it's been a while since such an intriguing group has entered our outpost here." And Master Quaylen does turn and look at you all again and back up, and he nods. "That's fair enough," he says. "Fair enough. You heard what happened?" And the Oath-taker says, "I did, but I would like to hear it from the mouths of those who experienced it. If you don't mind, Master Quaylen." And he kind of nods, and Master Quaylen gives him a nod and steps over to the side, bearing you to the Oath-taker.
Itzy's gonna step forward.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna pull out my pan flute and step forward.
She's gonna cast minor illusions and repeat.
And I'm gonna accompany musically.
Almost word for word.
Okay, so it all began with the battle, she says. And he sits and he watches. As he watches what you're doing, and again, what you're doing, minor illusion, it's a cantrip, it's limited. You're kind of casting it like over and over again, really, to try and kind of string together enough of this to make it happen. These kind of ghostly images done in. You said earlier that that certain of your spells were purple. Would the light of this be kind of a purplish light as well?
Yeah.
So, trying to make sense of this thing. You see him. You see him kind of cock his head to one side as it begins, and he looks down at you. You see a smile kind of spread on his face ever so slightly as he looks at you, and suddenly you can see the piece of metal on his forehead flare just ever so subtly with light, and you see Levin's eye flash, and Levin steps forward, and you can see that the Oath-taker raises his arms. His hands are covered, and you can tell as he raises them, it's completely sealed off the coat that he wears over his hands. But you see him move his hands, or move his arms, and move them in a motion. And as he does so, you see Levin following his movement to exactness, almost as if the Oath-taker was controlling his movements for him. As he reaches in and he pulls out some small kind of herbal components from a pouch, and he crushes them in his hand, and he weaves a form through the air with his hand, and then breathes out. And you can see this breathe out and down into the illusion that you're perpetrating before him right now. And all of a sudden, the ghostly kind of purple image that you're creating takes on life and takes on color. And you can suddenly see the space much, much more clearly. You see the clearing, you see the stockade, you can see the river moving on one side, and you can see the details of the men that you fought in this place that you were. And he kind of sits back as this happens, and Levin steps back and puts his arm once again on the Oath Taker's arm and continues to watch as your magic takes on kind of enhancements all of its own. Do you continue? Does this deter you at all, or?
Oh, she's gonna keep going. She's actually gonna start telling the story with more excitement and more energy and being. She's like, "Oh, I'm actually in this," and she's gonna start just really getting into it.
And you do. You see yourself, tiny little you.
She's gonna start pacing. She's gonna start moving around the illusion and kind of like get excited and jump at like scary parts and kind of lean in at exciting parts.
Right.
Kind of like dance around the illusion almost.
Awesome. And he watches this happen, and you actually hear him kind of go, oh, a couple of times as this takes place, as he kind of looks down at you until you reach the end. Where do you end this? Do you end it before you talk to Cole and all of that stuff? And
I'm gonna end it right as the last body drops.
Okay. And as you do so, the illusion kind of breaks and scatters, and kind of the colors that were added by the Oath Takers kind of into a mist and kind of float away. He looks down at you. I commend you on your method for sharing this with me, and for your enthusiasm. If enthusiasm could be equated with honesty, I would believe you immediately, he says. Sorry, hold on one second.
And
Go ahead.
Can I do an insight check on him?
Sure, you bet.
I rolled a natural 20.
Congratulations.
Of course.
Yeah. You as you're watching him, as he watches what's happening here, you kind of see his smile kind of quirk in places. You can see the kind of and what you see is honest enjoyment at what's happening kind of in front of him. He seems to get more joy out of it once he has become a part of it, once he's added his magic to it, but he's genuinely enthused about it. And he looks, when he speaks and looks down and makes the comment about honesty, you can tell that honesty is his interest. He's just interested in whether she's honest or not. You get a sense of, you don't get any sense of maliciousness or any sense, any overt senses of him trying to kind of hide or manipulate things at all. So with your natural 20.
Can I step forward then?
Okay, go ahead.
I've heard great things about you since you summoned us. I'm not gonna lie, I hadn't heard of you before that. Sorry. From the sense I'm getting from you, you seem to be open-minded. And I will admit, and I'm going to kind of look hesitantly at the group for a minute, there are some things that I held back in the account of what happened. I kept it going to protect the child. And I'm just gonna insert whatever we kept out about Cole.
Okay.
And explain what happened.
Okay. He listens to you as you do.
I wanted you to have all the facts before you make any sort of judgment about us.
I must commend you for your honesty. Deception would have served you poorly here in my presence. So it is much appreciated. He turns and actually looks at Master Quaylen, who has a bit of a look of consternation on his face as he looks back, and he's kind of shaking his head, and he looks up at the Oath Taker. He is but a boy. a foolish boy, it would seem. But as is the case with many of the things like this that have gone down, I would ask that you leave his comeuppance to me. I will ensure that he is instructed in the proper etiquette moving forward. And the Oath Taker looks down at him. I will leave this in your very capable hands, the Oath Taker says. I must admit that I am more interested in what these men were after. I have been told that there was a symbol found upon the weaponry of these men who ambushed you, he says. Would you be able to show it to me?
I'm going to pull out one of the stones and move forward and hold it out to him.
And Levin steps down, reaches out, and grabs the stone and holds it.
I'm going to hesitate for a second when it's Levin who steps forward.
He waits patiently.
And then hand it to him.
He nods, stands back, and he comes and he holds it in front of the Oath Taker. And the Oath Taker looks down upon it. Interesting. I will have to research what this means. It is new. We have seen many factions appear. The most egregious of them being those who cling to the old god that was worshipped here for many, many, many years before we came. Some of you will know the god Lucora in his many forms among the nations, a god of war. There are several factions who continue to support the cult of Lucora. They are our fiercest enemies in our expansion moving forward. They seek to subvert the noblest cause of the Bower King. I fear that this may be some new version of that we have not seen. But from what I can see, these men, though fiercely they fought you, did not seem overly powerful. They seemed to be maybe new to what it was that they were doing. Their weapons would appear to have been new as well, and it is potentially perhaps something that is now just reaching our area. My fear is that there is a group that is recruiting members here to undermine us. And though I am sorry for your pains, any pains that you might have experienced in your battle with them, I am very glad that this has been brought to our attention. I will add, they were interested in something that you had on you. Am I right?
Yes.
What is this item?
I am going to pull my bow out.
Okay.
Wicket's eyes light up ever so slightly.
May I take a closer look at it? I promise you that you will receive it in kind.
I'm gonna kind of hesitantly hand it over.
Levin steps back down again and he takes it in his hands. And you see as he holds it in one hand, and you see the Oath Taker's diadem flash again, and the eye of Levin flash again, and both of their hands move in unison one more time over the box as he kind of examines it. And you see it glow with a bit of light in his hand as he holds it, and he looks after a moment back down. Oath Taker Locent nods at Levin, and Levin takes it back down and hands it back to you in your hand. Nothing seems to have happened to it. Very intriguing. It is a powerful item that you hold. An item of transmutation magic, which is something I know quite a bit about. It is quite a prize that you were given. Is this something that you bought or something that was given to you?
It was given to me.
I would imagine that this is what they were after. Something about this item. We do have reports in other places that certain cults of Lucora do seek to obtain items of power to support them. And it could be that this, in this case, was something that they were interested in. I will take this into consideration. Well, you have had a very interesting day, it would seem, thus far. There are those within this outpost who will make life hard for you for the next while. I may be able to offer a simple solution to your problem that would stem the problem that might come to you. A way for you to earn the trust of those here. Would you be interested in such a thing?
Yeah.
The simplest way to overcome this would be to take the oath of the noblest cause. To take upon you the kaima. For when you wear the kaima, it will be proven that you are true. At least true enough towards the noblest cause and not here to undermine it in any way. As soon as that happens, all suspicion will fly. It is the simplest way. Those of you who have come here may know that this generally is only offered to those outside of the Ryonian people, those of us who came with the Bower King into this land, in groups of 5, as venturing hands, technically an extension of the Hallow Guard, as venturing hands for the noblest cause. You need a group of 5, and I see 5 before me. What are your intentions together?
We haven't really had time to brainstorm our intentions, but I'd like to say that we're just kind of going with the flow and, you know, just trying to find ourselves and
become heroes.
yeah, we're still talking about it, but I think Wicked's got some pretty good ideas. I think she's really, really good at coming with those ideas. And
Actually, Akerly's ideas. She wants to be a hero, and I totally support it, and so I'm gonna help her become a hero.
I think that's really admirable.
He looks. You see his eyes kind of pass to you, Akerly, and kind of linger on you for a moment as your name is mentioned. I understand.
But yeah, so I have a couple questions. Said a couple interesting things, and I just recently learned about, you know, kaimas, and which is really cool, by the way. I think what you're doing here is really great. Number one, what is the noblest cause? And just to clarify, you're asking us to join the I'm gonna look at Quaylen. The Hallow
the Hallow
Guard.
Yeah.
What?
The Hallow Guard.
The Hallow Guard. Thank you.
He winks at you. In a way, you would be joining the Hallow Guard, not in the way that the members of the Hallow Guard proper have joined it. The oath that they have taken to support the noblest cause, they were consecrated out of the nation of Ryonia to the service of the Bower King. This would not be the same for you. You would be under the purview of the Hallow Guard. And if you were to fight in any way against the noblest cause in a way that is destructive or undermining of what is being taken place here, then you would be
dead.
You would be taken into their custody and tried according to their rules. They are fair, largely speaking, if they are a bit untrusting in these times. But as long as you do nothing overtly to support the enemies of the Bower King or those who are seeking the disunion of Endremar, you would be fine. In fact, you will be blessed. You will receive additional strength from Davet, the god of Bower and Vale and the patron of the noblest cause. And you might find more about yourself in this way. And there is much to be found as a venturing hand, much glory to be uncovered, to be rediscovered. perhaps you will become heroes along the way.
Must you have an interest in this god to take on the Kaima?
Say that one more time.
Must you have an interest in this god to take this on?
No, we are not asking you to become a worshipper of Davet. Simply to allow yourself to make promises to support what we are doing here. And Davet is not one who needs the worship of others. He is content to ponder the mysteries of all things, and those who come to him might receive enlightenment and knowledge in terms of those mysteries which he has spent so many years seeking. He was not unlike you or me at one time.
If I were to take on the Kaima, that's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to take on the Kaima, would I directly participate in the restoration of the land?
You would be put into the service of the noblest cause, and the noblest cause speaks of reclaiming the land. Have none of you heard the noblest cause yet?
Not really.
In its fullness.
I've heard bits and pieces, but not like the full thing, no.
And you hear him kind of you see him turn his head towards Levin one more time, and you can see Levin step down and reach into his robe one more time, and you see him pull another one of these small kind of metal bows with a ribbon inside of it out, and Oath-taker Locent, his posture straightens as he looks out over you in a very official way, and he opens his mouth and says, "Hear ye the voice of Balion Inistar, child of two peoples, son of Andramar, he whose heart is both the origin and sanctum of the noblest cause, he who was consecrated as the hallowed hand of Davet and Bower king to the nation of Rionia, he who has been established in this land of Andramar as king provisory and who remains, even now, approved of Davet, god of Bower and Vale, and patron of the noblest cause. Hear his voice." And you can see Levin make the same gestures again as he kind of plucks the ribbon. You hear a bit of a rushing sound that begins kind of in the room, a kind of, and then you hear a voice speak again out of the air. "I am Balion Inistar. I am a simple son of Andramar and a child of two peoples, one of which has been lost and another which struggles to remain. For almost 1,000 years the peoples of Andramar have waged war upon one another for reasons that none can agree upon, except that their god required it of them. In their pursuit of this end, not only have the separate nations within Andramar broken each other, but they have broken themselves against each other, dishonoring old oaths and committing unspeakable atrocities. So deeply have the stains of their actions been impressed upon them that they have become incapable of saving either Andramar or themselves from utter ruin. And I will not allow the heart of creation, or those with whom I feel a deep kinship, to be swallowed by the darkness. To this end, I have ranged far beyond the boundaries of Andramar, in search of the power to save it from itself. In the far and frigid north did I find that which I sought, and putting this power into service of my cause, I will wield it to the redemption of all Andramar, both its peoples and its lands. This I will accomplish by the methods which do here follow. First, I shall put an end to the warring of those nations which remain, even though I must wage war against them to do it. Second, I shall rediscover and reconnect with the lost nations of Andramar, they who were cut off from us or who withdrew into their strongholds and hence from our current knowledge of them. Third, I shall recover the lost heritage of the peoples of Andramar from the crumbling ruins of cities lost to the wild and from the dens of dark monsters, and this to aid my people in remembering all that was once good and true about themselves and one another. Fourth, I shall root out the religion of the god Lucora, whose ideology has fueled war and destruction to the point of near extinction, and shall search out the old gods of each nation, under whose influence ancient Andramar flourished in peace and unity.
Fifth, I shall reclaim the lands of Andromar from the dark monsters and magics which have overwhelmed so much of it. For Andromar is both its peoples and its land, each one shaped by and beholden to the other in a fruitful circle without end. Sixth, when the time is right, I shall reveal the land of Andromar to the wider world of Mindolinar. Too long have we been hidden from the eyes and minds of our cousins beyond the mountains. Seventh, I shall forge meaningful connections with the outside world through trade agreements, treaties, and alliances, and pacts of mutual friendship and enlightenment. And lastly, when the peoples of Andromar have been redeemed, its lands and heritage reclaimed, and its gods restored, I shall return to my place as a simple ranger, leaving the stewardship of Andromar to those who will have been redeemed. I call upon any who will by oath swear to uphold this, the noblest cause, and each of its pillars. Those who so swear, and whose words and deeds bear witness of the fidelity of their oath, will be enlarged and enlightened by the virtue and knowledge of Davet, becoming in the end beings of great understanding and power, and a great boon to both their friends and to all the inhabitants of the world. And the voice ends, and he replaces the bow into his pocket, and you actually can see a tear kind of falling down the face of Levin as he puts it away and then kind of wipes with his hand as the tear kind of enters away. 8 is a sacred number to us in Rionia, us who worship Davet and serve him. We have been consecrated, set apart. The Bower King is called of Davet because of the worth of his cause. He came to Davet, and when his cause was found noble, in fact the noblest of all, he was called as Bower King, and many of us were consecrated out of the nation of Ionia to follow him. You do not have to follow in quite the same way, but if you see virtue in these things, in the redemption of the peoples of Andromar and the reclamation of its lands, you perhaps are a good fit for taking the Kaima upon you. And when you are done, you may remove it, and you may move on to other areas. It will only become a burden to you if you break your oaths or do anything specifically to undermine the cause that you have heard spoken to you today. And he kind of looks at you to gauge your guys' state.
I'll do it. I have a special interest in reclaiming the lands. So I'll do it.
I'm in as well.
I will take your oath.
And then he looks to the 2 tiniest of you.
I'm gonna close my eyes and open again and see if I can see Destiny.
Close your eyes and see if you can see Destiny.
Yeah.
You close your eyes and you blink and you open your eyes once more. And as you do so, the room is filled with amber light, all centered in and glowing outward from the 5 of you. You feel a great kind of peace and a great calm come over you as the idea of the 5 of you being bound together in this way seems to resonate deeply with the energy of the oracle fruit that you partook of what seems like a long time ago now.
Get me a bracelet and call me a subscriber to this cause.
A subscriber, I love it. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Just kidding. He turns and looks at you, Wicket. And you.
You mentioned that, like, maybe there was, like, chances of, learning some cool stuff about some cool things and, like, stuff, right?
Learning and knowledge and intelligence is highly prized by my people and by Davet. You shall be expanded and enlightened in the service of the noblest cause. And who knows what you will find beyond these walls in the wilds. What we do know is that much has been lost, and that which we have found has been awe-inspiring. This truly is an incredible place, kept too long from the world now.
Okay. Sure, I'll do it.
He nods again. Very well. You hear Master Quaylen kind of chime in from the side. That is good to hear. This is definitely the best course of action. As soon as the Kaimas are on you, the suspicion should ease. Thank you, Oath-Taker Locent, for your intervention. And Oath-Taker Locent says, that is not a problem. The sooner that we do this, the better for you. Is there any opposition to an immediate pursuance of this?
Nope.
No.
No.
Very well. If you are amenable, I will take you now, and we will do the ritual and make sure that you are safe. But before we do that, I am going to rearrange your camera screens very quickly. This sort of thing just, happens sometimes. Let's see. Actually, you know what? It'll probably be distracting to do that. So we're going to keep you guys where you are and just have people realize that you are who you are. He actually stands at this point in time, and he steps down from his seat and looks at you and says, take a moment and collect your thoughts. Speak to each other if you need to. And then he turns and he looks at you, Akerly, and he says, might I have a word alone?
Sure.
Come with me. And he turns and he nods to Levin, and you walk from the narrow kind of central, kind of high ceiling center to this side thing on the left-hand side of the seat. You can see that there is another door, a smaller door on that side that leads into another room, and he walks in that direction. Levin opens the door, and he passes through, and Levin stands waiting for you to pass through as well, which I'm assuming you do.
Yeah, sure. Nervously
Right.
and panically.
You step into this room, and Levin pulls the door shut behind him. You enter a smaller chamber, cozy. Definitely cozy in the same cluttered way as the sides. There's much in here, many apparatuses and tables and more kind of things. You don't see much in the way of paper or ink, which you might imagine to see normally. I guess to you it's not that abnormal to not see paper and ink, because outside of Andromar, the deliquescence has set in 600 years ago, and all ink and paper was ruined, and so most people have found alternate ways to keep things written down or to remember things. But there's a lot of things here. One of the most striking features that you see in the back of the room is a cabinet, a wooden cabinet, elaborately carved and decorated, and it is built in the shape of a tree. It's flat, and you can kind of see as you step in and kind of look to the side that it's maybe 6 inches deep, and it's flat, but the face of it is in the shape of a tree. You see a tree engraved, the trunk and many branches kind of coming off of it. And there are 2 doors that kind of connect in the center where this is engraved on. He steps into the room, and the door shuts behind him, and he turns to you. I do not mean to make you nervous. I simply have a question or two. Your gambeson is quite unique, is it not?
Yes, it's not like every gambeson you see. It's mine. So.
Right. And yet it is not what is on its outside, but what is on the inside that is most unique and interesting. Yeah?
I'm a wizard.
I could sense it as you entered. I could sense the spells upon you. And I could sense that many of those spells are of the transmutative variety. Is that correct?
Yes, how did you know?
I have my ways. For you see, I am a wizard as well. Of my people. Go ahead.
I could tell.
Yes. I find joy in using the magic that I have learned. I do not hide it well. As he kind of turns from you. And he says to you, before I was consecrated to the service of the Bower King, I was a member of the second mind of the body cerebral in Rionia. We are a governing body of our people, and it is our job to think and to find ways to apply what we learn. I, in particular, was the prime effectuator of the transmutative branch of the second mind. I know quite a bit about transmutative magic. And what I do know is that it seems that you have learned some of this in your life, but you are at something of a crossroads in terms of your power. You have had some training, I can tell. It is in you, in a way, that can only be done through learning. But if you stop now, you will lose much of what you have learned. And that is something I believe that I can help you with, if you are willing.
Are you?
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, this is awesome. I would love to, but if you're willing, I mean, you've never met me before. I could be a psychopath.
I trust my sense of people. You passed the tests on the way in to Andromar, did you not? So you are not a murderer or a psychopath, as you put it. You would have been caught out there. You have passed my own inspection here, and you are among people that I can feel, that I can trust. I have no problems with that. What I do have problems with is talent not seen through. I can sense that you have quite a knack for magic, and my guiding principle above all else is the pursuit and development of that knowledge. And I wish you the opportunity to do so. I do not know why that you have not chosen to stay and finish your training wherever you began it. But in the service of Davet, I wish only those who are pursuing their development, their own self-understanding and self-discipline and growth. And you, with the access to power that you have, you need learning, you need guidance. And this is something I'm very much willing to offer you, for knowledge has never hurt us. Some have used knowledge to ill purposes, but that sort of knowledge I will not pass to you now. What I speak of are the basics that will help you to progress to the next levels. By then I will know you better, and we will see.
If it doesn't fit, I can leave.
If the power doesn't fit? What do you mean?
Repeat that.
When you say if it doesn't fit, what do you mean exactly?
If this, our partnership, doesn't fit, work, I can leave.
He looks at you, kind of peers at you. No one should place limits or restrictions on our learning, on our knowledge. and I will not do so to you. As you came to me, so shall I let you go. If I have done things properly, and as I believe I understand of you, and we shall see. The knowledge itself will keep you here, and when that knowledge ceases to draw your attention, then you will go elsewhere.
I outstretch my hand for a handshake. And I say, my real name is Dawn. You can call me Dawn in secret.
He raises his hands, which are covered by the arms of his robe. And he says, I will take your word for it, and puts his hands back down, unless you would like to shake Levin's hand.
Sure, I awkwardly shake Levin's hands.
You actually see a wide smile on Levin's face at this point in time, in the middle of all of this. Very well, come with me. We have little time. And he walks towards the back of the room, towards the cupboard in the shape of the tree. And you can see him open it. And light pours out of it. And you can see that on the inside of this this thing, you can see another frame of this same kind of leaden metal, but it's in the shape of a tree. You see a pewter-like trunk with pewter-like branches. And hanging from these branches, you see dozens of these ribbons, like the one on the device that he saw, except that these are much longer than that. And they hang from this tree on the inside. And you can see several layers of branches and things on the inside. And he reaches in and he has Levin move up and reach in. And Levin touches a spot on the trunk of this tree, and you can see the metal of the tree reshape and begin to kind of mold itself as the branches slide and move, and the ribbons kind of come out and hang and kind of pull out to the side until a branch that was in the back moves forward. And you can see inside of this branch there are holes, and inside of each of these holes are small kind of rods that are about 4 inches long, like very small stakes that taper to a thin point on one end, and then on the other end are kind of a wider head about the size of a nickel at the top. And he nods to Levin, and Levin reaches in and pulls one of these out, and then causes the tree to kind of adjust and move back in to where it was before. And he turns, and Levin offers this small stake to you.
I take it. What does it do?
This is a codex rod. As I'm sure you are aware, seeing as you have placed so much of what you know and understand upon the garment that you wear, we have come up with unique ways of containing our information as well. We do not have spell books in the way that many wizards do, and he points to the tree with the ribbons on it. In fact, this is my spell book. But contained inside of this codex rod is knowledge about transmutation. Much theory, a few spells that you may pick up along the way. You are to study it, and you are to return, and I shall test you on your knowledge, and we will go from there. Let me show you how it works. And he steps off to the side, and he takes you over to where there's a small kind of stone tablet laying on a table. You can see on the top of the stake are 2 stones. One is a small round agate that is kind of striped brown and yellow and gray, and then there's a very small little bit of moonstone atop one side of it. And he says, touch it to the stone.
I hesitantly touch it to the stone.
And you place the tip of it onto the stone, and you can feel it sink into the stone ever so slightly. And as soon as it does, words appear in the surface of the stone, kind of etched and up into it. They kind of radiate out and then kind of fill the surface of the stone, and you can see just a bunch of words written there in a common language that you can understand. We have found a new way to keep our information in books of a different sort. This codex rod, if you place it and exercise just a little bit of will in any patch of earth or any patch of stone, the words inside will be made manifest. You may sit in the dirt and you may study this book if you wish, and just will it forward, backward. You can will it to seek information that you might need to go back to. It is made of cerebrium, as is much of these things that you see around you, and cerebrium is very sympathetic to the mind. And so just think what you wish, and it will sense your mind and your magic, and it will show you what is in here. Study well, and return. He nods again in your direction, and says, I thank you for letting me partner with you in this way.
Thank you for giving me a chance. I'll try to make you proud.
Well, I would prefer that you make yourself proud. There's much to learn. And he turns and nods to Levin. Now, let us bind you. I must admit I am itching to get a kaima upon all of you. I have a sense that you will do great things. In pursuit of the noblest cause, of course.
Thank you.
And he turns, and Levin leads you guys back out through the door, and you come back out. You all see her emerge once again. Oathtaker Locent approaches you. It says, are your minds prepared?
Yeah, as prepared as I guess they could be. I'm not really quite sure what I'm preparing for.
Then let us begin. And he turns, and Levin opens another door. This one opens up onto kind of a porch, in a way. It's kind of a deck with canvas kind of walls, and it's open to one side. You see more things out here. You see a small, what looks maybe like a telescope kind of standing to one side, and a variety of other things. And they lead you out into a garden that extends beyond the back of this place, a garden of beds that are filled with kind of wildly growing things that are moderately ordered, but let to be wild. And you take these paths and you wander back. You can see many trees that were left here when things were cleared out, so that there's some cover until you come to a hedge, a large hedge. As you approach the hedge, it's a thick hedge that just goes off kind of in a curve around things in either direction. And you see that you see as Oathtaker Locent approaches, Levin steps in front, and you can see both of them again puppeting each other's movements. As you can see as Oathtaker Locent begins to weave his hands, his kind of enrobed hands through the air. Levin does the same. His eye flares, and you can see him reach up, touch the hedge, and a doorway appears. The hedge kind of peels back, and a doorway appears, and you walk through and onto a path. You can see that inside of this large hedged-in section is an open field, and this open field is full of wild grass and wild flowers. And you can see in the near distance, upon just a hint of a rise, you see a large arbor, a gazebo-like structure that is made of rough timber and kind of rough log posts. It has got 8 corners and 8 sides, 2 steps leading up to it, and just a simple platform underneath. And you can see the dome above it is just made of simply woven branches and things above it. And you can see furled up around the edges what looks to be thin kind of linen cloth that has been kind of pulled up and held out of the way around the sides of it. As he walks through, you follow him along this path that heads in the direction of this thing. You can see that these flowers here are all the same. They are all a sort of flower that is tall, has a very thick and kind of bluish green stalk, and has many white flowers off to either side, kind of moving staggered in like a ladder-like pattern. As he passes, he steps off the path, and you see him once again begin to wave his hands with a flash and a flare. You see magic begin to emanate from Levin's hands as these flowers deconstruct before your eyes, and they kind of disintegrate almost into a thread that begins to weave itself together. And he just continues passing, pulling more of these plants into the construction of what ends up being a very thin rope
of some kind, a very thin kind of cord that is kind of green with white, the white of the flowers woven through it, until he's got a bit of a bundle of it. It's very kind of thin and flaxen and simple, but he takes that with him, 11 kind of holding it in. As you approach the oath house of Davet, you see that there are 8 individuals, mostly elven, all in simple clothing, just simple tunics and breeches, who stand waiting, and they step up and take places at each of the 8 pillars. And you are invited up into the oath house very quickly. Invited up into the oath house. You enter and you see, let me switch here and get this going. You see this, if I were to have taken the top off, you can see the 8-sided, 8-cornered oath house with the pillars. And you can see that it's very simple, rough wood, but inlaid into the floor, you can see 5 rings of this gray cerebrium that he mentioned earlier, a couple of feet apart. At the very center of the oath house is a small, kind of short 2.5 foot, 3 foot pillar of rough granite, and atop this, and it's 5-sided, and atop this is a bowl that seems to be affixed to the top, made of kind of a simple copper, and it kind of rises up, and you can see a kind of metal piece of metal rising up from the center of it that has a bit of a ring at the top of it. And he invites you in. You can see that there is a simple woven mat on the west side of it, and the oath taker walks over and sits down on the mat. And Levin instructs you, kind of points at these 5 rings. And I'm going to have you guys tell me which ring you choose to stand in. We'll start with Pim. So we'll, as reference, use the path here, and then this is again the kind of west side with the mat, and you can kind of guide me here.
We're gonna do the one right in front of you.
There. Ooh, this one.
Yeah.
Okay. And Azriel.
I'm gonna do the top one next to Pim. So, yep, that one.
Okay, Bitsy?
We'll go on the other side of Pim.
Okay. Wicket.
Sure, right there.
Okay, and that leaves you, Akerly, right here. You all take a place standing inside of one of these circles. And Levin steps into the center, and he begins to unwrap this rope, this cord that he made. And you can see as he unwraps it that there are 5 strands, all connected in the center by a very small, kind of interconnected kind of piece. And he walks forward and he attaches that central piece to the ring in the center, using some of the fibers in the center of this bowl at the center of that tall stand. And he lets the strands fall, except for one. And he pulls those strands out. He pulls that strand along until he reaches the first of you. And we'll say that he reaches Pim first. And at this moment, you can see the 8 attendants around the edge pull cords, and a veil falls down around the edge of the arbor. The cloth that was furled up around the edges falls down just to separate you ever so slightly from the outside world. And he walks up to you, and you hear Oathtaker Locent's voice come out to you as he looks at you, Pim. And he says to you, each of you will answer in the affirmative to the questions that follow if you wish. If any wish not to, it is your decision. And he stops before you, Pim, and you hear the Oathtaker's voice say, do you swear to do no harm to those recognized as citizens or allies of Andromar, except in defense of yourself or other law-abiding citizens or allies of Andromar?
I swear.
The rest of you?
I swear.
So he nods. He looks you in the eye, Pim, but listens for everybody else. And as you say yes, he ties the end of this strand around your wrist. And then he goes back and fetches the next one. And he follows forward towards Bitsy and stops in front of you, Bitsy. And you hear the voice. Do you swear to let virtue, truth, and the purer powers guide you on your path of service to the noblest cause?
I swear.
And he ties it to your wrist and continues moving to Wicket. Do you swear to treat honorably with those to whom you are bound as a venturing hand of Darvet? And he ties it. Akerly, do you swear to return all artifacts, books, works of art, or magical items to the House of Darvet in order for their significance to the future of Andromont to be decided and the appropriate compensation awarded to you?
Swear.
And he ties it around your wrist and then moves around to Nazriel. And do you swear to do all within your power to cleanse dark monsters, magics, or evil conspirators from the land through which you travel, when within your power to do so, and if not, to bring back intelligence regarding the threat for a guide and warning to others?
I swear.
And he ties the last strand around your wrist, and now you're all tethered to the central kind of post, each tied by one of these strands. And you see him stop and stand, and you hear the oath taker say, having so sworn, I consecrate you to the service of the noblest cause and its patron, to be blessed by him as you prove faithful to your oaths this day. And you see them both begin to move in sync once more as they begin to cast a spell. He walks forward. You see him reach into a pouch, Levin, as his eye flares, and he pulls out a fine powdered gray powder, and he drops it in the bowl. And there's a flare of light and flame. A kind of greenish flame appears. And it lights the center of this cord on fire that you're all tethered to. And you watch as the fire races out across the strands towards you. And it reaches right to the edge where it's tied, and then it stops. And it sits there for ever so slightly as Levin finishes some movements with his hands, and ends, mutters a few words, and then the parts that are on fire simply turn to ash and fall to the ground, and you're left with a bracelet of this material tied around your wrist with two small tethers off of it, and you can see that at the end of one of these tethers is a small lump of what appears to be cerebrium, this gray metal that you've seen being used in many other places. And Oathtaker Locent begins to speak. Very well, you have... And as he begins to speak, he stops as there's a pulse of energy and light from the piece of cerebrum on each of your guys' kaimas. And you see this green light kind of wash over each other's forms and kind of down upon you. And Levin steps forward quickly, almost eagerly, and Oathtaker Locent says, "Quick, you must press your fingers upon the cerebrium." And he walks over to you, Wicket, who's nearby, and he shows you to press your forefinger and your thumb on either side of the piece and kind of push in, and you can feel it as you do so. It's soft enough that your fingers sink into it ever so slightly. And he looks up to make sure all of you are doing that. And as you do so, information floods into each of your minds. And you are able to sense that you have been blessed with a gift of power, of small power, that resides inside of this cerebrium. And for each of you, it is different. You sense that a little bit of magic has been infused into each of these small bits. Wicket, you just intuitively know that your kaima has been infused with the spell Spare the Dying. but this spell only works on you. And what Spare the Dying does is that if you drop to 0 hit points, the spell will go off and you'll immediately be stabilized. So you won't have to make any death saving throws. You'll be brought back to 0 hit points and then stabilized. And you intuitively know that this will happen once a day, but it has to recharge before you can use it again. Bitsy, you find that on your Kaima, it kind of enters into your mind that you have had the spell Guidance placed inside of your Kaima, and it will only cast on you once a day, not on other people, and it in effect gives you additional d4s to certain abilities or saving throws when you're in combat. Pim, inside of your Kaima, you have Resistance, the spell Resistance, which is, again, only on you. Normally this is something clerics cast on other people, but this will be cast on you, and also only once a day, and needs to be recharged. Anasriel, you see that you get the sense that you have the spell Detect Magic inside of your Kaima that you can also use once a day. And Akerly, inside of yours is the spell Light. And in essence, what it'll do is it'll turn your Kaima into a light when you use it. It'll shed light all around you in like a 20-foot radius. You can look up that spell, but it'll be centered on the Kaima on your hand instead of on something else, which actually worked out well because you're one of the only that don't have dark vision, I think. So
Only human, what can you say?
Right. As this sinks in, the Oath Taker stands up and says, "Well, it would seem that I was correct. I indeed look forward to what you will do in service of the noblest cause. You've come together well." And he looks at all of you standing there and says, "Do you have any other questions of me before I return to my chambers and you to yours?"
Where should we report?
You will want to report in the office of the hand of in the office of Davet, the House of Davet. There is a place there in the building where they keep many of the items that have been found and discovered, and where they distribute the compensation, and you will want to make yourself known there. After which point we will put you back in contact with Master Quaylin. He has more information of this area roundabout and will be able to point you in a proper direction as you begin your endeavors, your adventures, give you some guidance. And then from there, I will pass along what has taken place to those in charge of the Hallowed Guard. We will continue to do our investigation and research upon the bodies of those who attacked you, and hopefully we will know more upon your return. Until then, keep a wary eye out while you carry that boat upon you.
I'm gonna step towards him.
Okay.
And say, I have a question, but it's unrelated.
Very well. Would you like to step aside?
Yes.
And he kind of turns and steps down one of the steps and out towards kind of the meadow, putting a little bit of different distance between the rest of you. What is it?
You seem very wise. And I know that doesn't necessarily mean you know everything, but it indicates that you know more than me. By chance, have you seen or heard of anyone or anything like me?
He turns to you kind of quizzically with his head turned. Looks at you. Kind of takes in everything that he sees.
There is something about you that tickles a thought or an idea in my mind. Such things are out of my purview. I generally have focused my entire life upon the study of the arcane, on magic and its application. And in Rionia we are exceedingly, oh, the word was right in front of my brain, specialized in our endeavors. We have learned through long experience this makes us stronger and better as a people. There are those who may know more, whose purview extends beyond just magics, but to the peoples of the world and the races of the world. There may be those I can ask. Would you like me to look into it for you?
I would be grateful.
Very well.
Thank you.
I will. And he turns and walks back towards the gazebo. And he stops, turns back towards you. Might I offer some advice?
Please.
While it is wise to ask questions of the wise, much wisdom can be found through pure contemplation. Now that you are marked with the Kaima, and in some small way connected to Davet, who has seen fit to bless you with additional strength, think, spend time thinking, pondering, for this is how Davet earned his wisdom. Not from books, not from others, but from pure, unsullied contemplation. And maybe, perhaps, he can pass this along to you.
What makes you, not to sound rude, but what makes you believe that he would answer? I have spent many years in contemplation to one such god or another that have remained silent. And I still have no direction. Not to sound rude or question your beliefs.
I, in fact, understand perfectly what you say. For years, many, many years, Davet has been very distant from my people. For very many years we have been left unto ourselves, and perhaps that is our own fault. We began to think that he would not answer our questions. Some among us began to take pride in that fact and think that we had indeed become smart enough that we did not need to learn from higher beings. But there are those among us who knew that there was a distance, and it saddened us greatly. It was upon the arrival of the Bower King, Balion Inistar, the strength of his cause, that reawakened Davet, that brought him forth from wherever it was that he had been. I have seen with my own eyes his power. I have seen him acting. I have seen him today as he has blessed you. I believe now more than ever that to those who seek, he will answer.
Very well. Thank you for the advice.
You're very welcome. I will be here when you return from your future endeavors. I will be curious to know what you have found out, and if I have discovered anything on my end, I will let you know.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you again.
He turns and leads you back up onto the thing, and looks at all of you and says, well, now you are a true venturing hand of Davet. I think that you will do wonderful things. And that's gonna be where we end this night's session. Thank you guys for getting through that. I think we're ready to launch into the unknown here pretty quick. So good job, guys. Thank you to all of those who hung with us, and to any who might be watching this later, not live. Once again, we would totally be down if you shared this with other people in your life, right? Because I forgot to do that earlier. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, please give us a subscribe and click that thumbs up button and all the notifications and whatnot. And yeah, let those who you think would be interested know about this that we have going on. We look forward to swinging back around in the future. Yeah, any other announcements, thoughts, and things?
Follow us on social media for updates.
We are on the Instagram, I think at Character Choices, right? At Character Choices or at Character Choices D&D.
I think it's just Character Choices.
Yep.
And there are links in
You'll see our logo.
Right.
We're also on Facebook.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We do appreciate all of you who were here and showed up. And yeah, hope you all have a great week between now and next Wednesday. And look forward to seeing you again. Yeah, that's it. We will peace out. Wish you a good night. Goodbye.
What is this?
I don't know.
I saw Rachel doing it. So I was like, that looks fun.
I'm gonna do the I'm gonna do like the end of that Sound of Music song.
Sound of
every
Music.
time, right? In any case, awesome. Peace out. Till next week. Stay safe. Be happy. Give this D&D thing a try. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.